Hey you, are you tucked in or curling into a favorite corner? Maybe a pillow is just right. Maybe a blanket has found your ankles all by itself. Wherever you are, welcome. This is a quiet place for curiosity that doesn't ask you to sit up straight. If you like having a soft voice keep you company at night, you can subscribe whenever it feels easy. No rush. If you'd like, tell me where you're tuning in from. Bedroom, sofa fort, late bus, night train. I love seeing our little map of sleepy dots around the world. A quick promise before we wander. This time together is for relaxation and learning. You do not have to remember everything. You can drift. You can miss a sentence or three and still get the meaning. If your eyes grow heavy, that counts as success. Your mind knows how to learn while you rest. Here's our pillow soft question. When you fall asleep, where do today's moments go? The small victories, the names you met, the laugh that made your shoulders drop. Do those pieces hide in a closet, freeze in place, or turn into something new while you're not looking? Picture this, not a quiz, not a race, just a slow walk with the lights dimmed low. We'll wander through the cozy halls of how memory works while you sleep. Let's set the room together. Think of a cracked window, a little night air, the friendly hush of distant traffic doing its patient loop. A mug sits nearby. The tea went lukewarm an hour ago, somehow the exact temperature that follows you from room to room. There's a sock that has escaped the pair, probably filing for independence under the bed. Gentle things, ordinary things. We're not fixing the world tonight. We're tidying a corner of it. Here's what you can expect. We'll go slow. We'll speak in short lines that breathe. We'll put an image in your hands before we give anything a big name. And there won't be any sudden breaks in the middle. No mid-roll detours. Think of a quiet train, steady and on time, gliding through soft stations. When we meet a new idea, we'll give it a friendly handle, the kind you can hold with one finger. Our rhythm will be simple. A question, an image, then a calm takeaway line. Like this, question, where do moments go? Image, a house after a gentle party. Plates stacked, lights low, a shy crew tidying. Takeaway, sleep is not the off switch. It's the night shift that cares for your day. We'll lean on 3 familiar families of pictures, so your mind never has to climb a ladder in the dark. First, home and kitchen. Counters cleared, drawers that somehow swallow flyers you don't need, the hook by the door where keys either go or don't. Second, a city at night. Street sweepers humming, longer green lights, the small miracle of maintenance you only notice when it's missing. Third, the library and the post office. Books quietly returning to their shelves, letters leaving the busy hub to find their real addresses. These will be our lamps along the path. We'll also preview the 3 stops on tonight's gentle tour. No jargon, just nicknames. There's the night sweep, a phase that smooths the roads so the important traffic can move. There's the glue and the postman, the handoff that turns today's notes into tomorrow's sturdier keepers. And there's the dream editor, the part that links scenes, softens sharp edges, and sometimes casts your 3rd grade teacher in a surprise cameo with your grocery list. Not because your brain is trying to be confusing, but because it's trying to be helpful, testing connections while you rest. A few soft ground rules, so attention stays light. We'll define before naming. You'll meet the job before the job title. We'll use micro-summaries whenever we feel a little full, and we'll treat uncertainty kindly. Some things in Brainland are still being mapped. That's okay. You don't need a perfect chart to walk a quiet road. Let's pause, take a slow breath in, and an even slower breath out. Shoulders can drop, jaw can unclench. If a yawn arrives, you have full permission to keep it. So the short version is, you're safe to relax. You'll get images you can hold, and your mind will do the rest in its own sweet time. One more tiny promise. Gentle humor will visit like a cat. Unexpected, harmless, and very sure it lives here. If a joke about lukewarm tea or runaway socks wanders through, it's only to soften the edges, never to poke. The aim is ease. The aim is that little feeling of, oh, that makes sense, arriving without effort. Here's the gentle twist we'll explore tonight. Many people picture sleep as a big power button. Office dark, nothing happens. But if that were true, why do some things feel clearer in the morning? Why does a dance step smooth out, a line of poetry land, a knot in the chest loosen, without any extra practice? Not because your brain stored a perfect snapshot, but because it quietly worked on the picture while you rested. So the short version is, there's a night crew in your head, and they love tidy paths. We'll meet them, we'll keep the lights low, and we'll begin with a bridge. If memory were only a saved file, how could anything improve by morning? If your attention wanders, that's welcome. You don't have to hold the thread tight. Let the words move at their own pace, like a calm line of thought that remembers the way back even if you don't. If your eyelids grow heavy, that's not a problem to solve. It's part of the plan. You are here to rest while curiosity does its quiet work in the background. We'll keep language simple, short lines, soft turns. When a bigger idea arrives, you'll get a friendly handle first. Only later, if it helps, we'll add a proper name. Define before naming. That way, nothing feels like a pop quiz. If you've ever tried to remember a term and found only the shape of it, you know the feeling. Tonight, shapes come first, names second. You'll hear small summaries along the way, tiny bookmarks. So the short version is, and then one clean thought. These are not tests. They are resting places. If you arrive at one and realize you drifted, perfect timing. You can step back onto the path without reviewing anything. This is a stroll, not a march. Let's keep our three gentle families of pictures close by. Home and kitchen first, counters get cleared, drawers quietly take in papers you don't need. Keys live better on a hook than in the laundry basket. These are the kinds of motions your brain makes at night. Returning, sorting, choosing where things go so morning feels easier. City at night next. Long lights, fewer horns. Small machines hum while most people rest. The city is not asleep. It is repairing. Your mind does a version of that. Finally, library and post office. Books to shelves. Letters to addresses. A tidy system that makes finding easy tomorrow. You don't need to remember every metaphor. One will stick, and that's enough. A word about pace will go in cycles. Every minute or so, a new question, a fresh image, a gentle takeaway. The pattern will repeat until it feels natural, then it will disappear into the background, like the steady sound you stop noticing because it's friendly. This is by design. Predictability helps the body soften. Curiosity keeps the mind lightly awake, just enough to enjoy the glide. Some listeners like a small ritual, maybe placing the phone face down, maybe shifting the pillow once, maybe sipping the last of that tea that somehow stayed lukewarm and loyal. If you have a ritual, let it happen now. If you don't, that's fine. The ritual can simply be you hearing your own breath and remembering that nothing urgent is required. A few gentle expectations. There will be no sudden interruptions in the middle, no hard edges. If something feels dense, it will be followed by space. If a sentence holds more than you want to carry, you can set it down and keep walking. The ideas will circle back in friendlier clothes, not because you must master them, but because repetition is kind. Tiny humor will visit, the harmless house cat of attention. A sock escapes its pair and starts a solo career. A spoon migrates to the wrong drawer and pretends it belongs. These small surprises help the brain smile at new ideas. Gentle is the point. Nothing sharp, nothing snarky, nothing that pulls you upright. Now, about the big question we're holding, like a smooth stone. When you sleep, where does the day go? Where do the names live? The routes you drove, the flavor you tried, the thought that made you pause. If memory were a shelf where you put things and walked away, mornings would feel flat, unpolished. But often they don't. Often, the rough edge has been sanded, the step feels steadier, the sentence finds its rhythm. Something has happened while you were doing nothing on purpose, not because your brain stored a perfect snapshot, but because it worked with the picture. It sorted, it linked, it let some bits fade so the rest could stand clear. That's the night crew we'll meet. This isn't a mystery novel. It's a tour of a quiet, helpful process that you already trust more than you realize. If your mind is busy tonight, you don't need to force it to hush. You can let it walk along with us. Busy minds can still relax. The trick isn't to stop thinking. It's to offer thoughts a gentler hallway. Questions arrive, images answer. Then a calm line closes the loop. With each loop, the hallway grows softer underfoot. So the short version is, you're not required to perform. You're invited to listen the way you listen to rain. Sometimes closely, sometimes as a blur, always enough. A brief note on care. If sleep feels distant right now, that's okay. Bodies have seasons. Nights have their own weather. This time together doesn't need to fix anything to be worthwhile. Learning can be light. It can be the smallest of shifts, one idea landing in the right drawer, one feeling finding a kinder edge. That is enough, more than enough. You may hear your own breath more clearly now. If you like, lengthen the exhale by a beat. The light's low. And we'll begin with a bridge. If memory were only a saved file, how could anything improve by morning? If your attention wanders, that's welcome. You don't have to hold the thread tight. Let the words move at their own pace, like a calm line of thought that remembers the way back even if you don't. If your eyelids grow heavy, that is not a problem to solve. It's part of the plan. You are here to rest, while curiosity does its quiet work in the background. We'll keep language simple, short lines, soft turns. When a bigger idea arrives, you'll get a friendly handle first. Only later, if it helps, we'll add a proper name. Define before naming. That way, nothing feels like a pop quiz. If you've ever tried to remember a term and found only the shape of it, you know the feeling. Tonight, shapes come first, names second. You'll hear small summaries along the way, tiny bookmarks. So the short version is, and then one clean thought. These are not tests. They are resting places. If you arrive at one and realize you drifted, perfect timing. You can step back onto the path without reviewing anything. This is a stroll, not a march. Let's keep our three gentle families of pictures close by. Home and kitchen first, counters get cleared, drawers quietly take in papers you don't need. Keys live better on a hook than in the laundry basket. These are the kinds of motions your brain makes at night. Returning, sorting, choosing where things go so morning feels easier. City at night next. Long lights, fewer horns. Small machines hum while most people rest. The city is not asleep, it is repairing. Your mind does a version of that. Finally, library and post office. Books to shelves, letters to addresses, a tidy system that makes finding easy tomorrow. You don't need to remember every metaphor. One will stick, and that's enough. A word about pace. We'll go in cycles. Every minute or so, a new question, a fresh image, a gentle takeaway. The pattern will repeat until it feels natural, then it will disappear into the background, like the steady sound you stop noticing because it's friendly. This is by design. Predictability helps the body soften. Curiosity keeps the mind lightly awake, just enough to enjoy the glide. Some listeners like a small ritual, maybe placing the phone face down, maybe shifting the pillow once, maybe sipping the last of that tea that somehow stayed lukewarm and loyal. If you have a ritual, let it happen now. If you don't, that's fine. The ritual can simply be you hearing your own breath and remembering that nothing urgent is required. A few gentle expectations. There will be no sudden interruptions in the middle, no hard edges. If something feels dense, it will be followed by space. If a sentence holds more than you want to carry, you can set it down and keep walking. The ideas will circle back in friendlier clothes, not because you must master them, but because repetition is kind. Tiny humor will visit, the harmless house cat of attention. A sock escapes its pair and starts a solo career. A spoon migrates to the wrong drawer and pretends it belongs. These small surprises help the brain smile at new ideas. Gentle is the point. Nothing sharp, nothing snarky, nothing that pulls you upright. Now, about the big question we're holding like a smooth stone. When you sleep, where does the day go? Where do the names live? The routes you drove, the flavor you tried, the thought that made you pause. If memory were a shelf where you put things and walked away, mornings would feel flat, unpolished. But often they don't. Often, the rough edge has been sanded. The step feels steadier. The sentence finds its rhythm. Something has happened while you were doing nothing on purpose, not because your brain stored a perfect snapshot, but because it worked with the picture. It sorted. It linked. It let some bits fade so the rest could stand clear. That's the night crew we'll meet. This isn't a mystery novel. It's a tour of a quiet, helpful process that you already trust more than you realize. If your mind is busy tonight, you don't need to force it to hush. You can let it walk along with us. Busy minds can still relax. The trick isn't to stop thinking. It's to offer thoughts a gentler hallway. Questions arrive, images answer. Then a calm line closes the loop. With each loop, the hallway grows softer underfoot. So the short version is, you're not required to perform. You're invited to listen the way you listen to rain, sometimes closely, sometimes as a blur, always enough. A brief note on care. If sleep feels distant right now, that's okay. Bodies have seasons, nights have their own weather. This time together doesn't need to fix anything to be worthwhile. Learning can be light. It can be the smallest of shifts. One idea landing in the right drawer, one feeling finding a kinder edge. That is enough, more than enough. You may hear your own breath more clearly now. If you like, lengthen the exhale by a beat. No counting, no pressure, just a little extra softness on the way out. Let your shoulders be heavier than your thoughts. Let your jaw forget it has a job. We are almost ready to step from welcome into the first doorway of understanding. Before we do, let's touch our handles again. The night sweep that smooths the roads, the glue and the postman that deliver memories to their long-term homes, and the dream editor that links scenes and tempers edges. We'll visit each with the same calm rhythm: question, image, takeaway, and now a bridge, a gentle one you can cross half asleep. If memory were nothing more than a saved file, frozen and waiting, why do some things improve by morning without any extra effort from you? Why does the step feel smoother, the line clearer, the knot smaller? That is where we go next, unhurried, ready to meet the simple picture we all start with and see how it bends towards something kinder. Before we step through the first doorway of ideas, let's agree on one more gentle thing. You don't owe this moment any effort. Curiosity will walk itself. If it slows, fine. If it loops, also fine. Your attention can float like a balloon on a ribbon. You don't have to tug. The ribbon knows your wrist. Let's pause. Notice how a simple pattern keeps us steady. Question, image, good takeaway. When you hear a question, it opens a small window. When you receive an image, it gives your mind something soft to hold. When a calm line arrives, it closes the window without slamming it. That cycle, is our lullaby. We'll play it again and again until the rhythm hums on its own. A few friendly promises are worth repeating. No sudden interruptions in the middle, no sharp corners. If a term shows up, it will be wearing a name tag that you can ignore. We will always define before naming. If we ever wander close to a label, you'll already know what it means, because you've met its job, shaken its hand, and seen it work. And if you don't want the name at all, you can let it drift past like a cloud that forgot your address. Now keep our 3-picture families within arm's reach, but don't grip them. Home and kitchen, counters find their shine, drawers practice kindness by hiding clutter, and the key hook waits like a loyal friend. City at night, long lights, quiet engines, maintenance crews that prefer moonlight to headlines, library and post office, books sliding home, envelopes leaving the hub, everything easier to find tomorrow because someone cared tonight. You don't need all 3. One is plenty. The others will wave politely from a distance. Here's the gentle twist we're circling. A lot of us imagine sleep as a giant off switch. Click, darkness, nothing moves. That picture feels simple and safe, and there's comfort in simple, but it leaves out the part you can feel in your bones. Mornings when something that was sticky is suddenly smooth. If truly nothing moved, why would ease arrive? Not because you crammed harder, but because your brain quietly rearranged the furniture while you rested. The chair that blocked the doorway moved to its corner. The lamp found the table that suits it. You woke to a room that made sense. So the short version is, your nights are not empty. They're gentle work sessions you don't have to attend. Let's soften the air with a tiny laugh. Somewhere in your home, a spoon has migrated into the wrong drawer and is absolutely confident that it belongs. Minds do this too. Ideas wander. Night helps them stroll back to their right places without a fuss. And if one sock insists on a solo career, your brain may at least pair it with a memory you can actually use. If you feel a little full, we can drain off a thimbleful together. Inhale lightly. Exhale longer than you think you need. Imagine attention as warm sand. It settles when you stop shaking the jar. Good. No counting, no goals, just a softer edge. You might be wondering, will tonight be practical or poetic? The answer is kindly both. We'll use pictures that make sense in your hands, then add a line or two that explains the job they do. We won't bury you in details. We'll offer micro summaries at regular steps so you can rejoin the path without scanning your footprints. If you only remember one idea, let it be this. Sleep is the caretaker of your day. Here's how our route will unfold with the handles you already know. First, we'll visit the night sweep. Think of it as traffic calming for the mind, the part that hushes the noisy lanes so the important caravans can pass. Then we'll meet the glue and the postman, the careful handoff from today's inbox to tomorrow's shelves, the reason your mental desk is clear enough to start fresh. Finally, we'll sit with the dream editor, the one who tries out connections, rounds off sharp feelings, and sometimes lets your grocery list duet with your 3rd grade teacher. It's not chaos, it's creative filing, and you don't have to lift a finger. Along the way, we'll keep autonomy close. You can pause whenever you like. You can listen out of order and still arrive. You can fall asleep and wait later at a new sentence, and the story will still fit. That's the nice thing about gentle truths. They don't expire when your eyes close. Picture this. You close a cabinet softly. Inside, everything already found its shelf. You didn't see it happen, and you don't need to. You simply enjoy the ease of knowing where the cups live. That's the feeling we're moving toward. Not because memorizing is a contest, but because comfort makes learning stick. If doubt pokes its head in, what if I don't sleep easily? We will greet it with manners. Nights vary. Brains have weather. You are not doing this wrong. The act of listening kindly to yourself is already part of the process. Even if sleep comes late, the path is still being made, stone by smooth stone. So the short version is, show up as you are, and the rest can be light. We'll keep one more promise. Humor will stay small and indoor voice. No snark, no jump scares, just those cozy domestic surprises. The tea that insists on being lukewarm in every room, the pen that mysteriously migrates, the plant that seems to grow only when you look away. These are our companions, not distractions. They help new ideas find a seat at your table. Let's mark the doorway with a simple, satisfying bridge. If memory were only a frozen file, the kind you close and forget, how could a step feel steadier after sleep? How could a sentence untangle itself? How could a feeling soften at the edges just because a clock turned? That's the trail we'll take next. Not hurried, not technical, but true to your lived experience. Take one last easy breath here. Shoulders can drop another millimeter. The floor can do the holding. You can let go of the rest. When you're ready to continue, we'll meet the picture most of us start with, the save and shut model, and we'll watch kindly as it opens into something more helpful. So the short version is, you're welcome to drift, and you're welcome to learn. Either way, you're already doing it. Let's start where most minds naturally begin, with the easiest picture. You collect pieces of your day the way you save a document. You press save, close the lid, and trust it will be there in the morning. Simple, comforting, familiar. You don't have to wrestle with it. You just put the day down and let it stay put. All through the afternoon, you tuck things away. A phone number lands on the mental desktop. A face slides into a neat little folder. A recipe tweak sits in a note you plan to use next week. You picture your brain as a tidy laptop, the kind that sighs into sleep, the little light pulsing like a cat breathing. The work is finished. The file is safe. Done. There's also the kitchen version. You set items on the counter for later. A spoon, a grocery list, the leftover half of an idea. They'll be exactly where you left them when you return. No one rearranges that corner overnight. Counters do not develop opinions while you sleep. They simply hold. And the shoe rack version. You put your pair in the same slot every day. Tomorrow you expect them to greet you, side by side, loyal as ever. Shoes do not migrate without permission. They are good citizens of the entryway. That's the save and shut picture. It feels right because so much of living relies on it. You left your keys in a dish. They'll be there when you reach. You closed your notebook. The writing will still be inside. You told someone, I know it. I saved it. And you meant it. The thought is simple. The brain stores things where you put them, and powered down means nothing moves. When you imagine your mind this way, you don't have to think about what happens at night. You close the lid. The light fades. The day pauses exactly as it was. If you could peek, you'd see a desktop with neat icons waiting politely for morning. Some items are pinned. Some are minimized. All are frozen in time until you return with coffee. This picture keeps life orderly. It lets you leave the grocery list for tomorrow and trust those items won't wander off the page. It encourages the idea that once a thing is saved, really saved, you can relax. You did the work. The system remembers even when you don't. Of course, the mental desktop sometimes looks less like a magazine photo and more like a crowded table. Sticky notes everywhere. A bold file named Important that on inspection is a blank document with an ambitious title. A folder inside a folder inside another folder labeled Final, this one. But the idea holds. It's all there, cluttered perhaps, still present, waiting. Autosave in this friendly picture is your silent ally. If you forget to click the button, it clicks for you. Except, here's the tiny laugh. Autosave loves to miss the one thing you were certain you'd need tomorrow. The correct gate code vanished. The tune from that ad you heard once, that. Your mind remembered in full stereo. Somehow the jingle bought a condo on your mental waterfront, while the gate code is camping in the rain. But mostly, the save and shut model soothes. It fits what you feel when you say, I knew it yesterday. It matches the trust that makes daily life possible. Documents don't erase themselves while a laptop sleeps, and memories shouldn't either. You close your eyes. You expect the same layout in the morning, as if your brain were a fridge keeping leftovers cold. Open, and there it is. Same container, same label, same spot on the shelf. There's relief in such simplicity. You don't have to inspect the insides of the machine. You don't have to supervise the night. You can step away. Sleep is the off switch. Morning is the on. Nothing happened in between except quiet. You picture dreams as movie trailers playing in a separate tab, a screensaver for consciousness, while the real work, the saved stuff, sits undisturbed in the background. The trailers are silly, sometimes odd, but harmless. They leave the files alone. Your brain, in this version, is courteous enough to entertain itself without touching your organized piles. Think of all the daily rituals that lean on this. Couples share a calendar and trust it will still show the appointment at dawn. Students underline a sentence and trust the underline means something will stick. Workers drop a note in an app and trust the app is the new memory. The faith beneath these acts is the same. Saving works because saved things stay put. When you look at it that way, the story feels complete. A day is a document. You save it, you shut it. Tomorrow, you open. The content returns, loyal as a bookmark. Your role in the night is to do nothing. The brain's role is also to do nothing, except exist. No movement required, no edits allowed, no surprises expected. It's a tidy starting point, and it deserves to be honored. You've used it for years. It has carried you through exams, meetings, new cities, new recipes, new names. It makes sense that you'd trust it now. Close the lid, lights down, peace. When you're ready, we can place a gentle finger on the edges of this picture, not to break it, but just to see if it bends. The reason the save and shut picture feels so right is that so much of your day runs on it. You write a note and trust the ink. You pin a reminder and trust the pen. You send yourself an email with the subject, "Don't forget," and trust that future you will obey the subject line like it's the law. This trust is practical. It keeps the wheels turning. It lets you rest your head without rehearsing every detail you touched. There's a deeper comfort hidden inside it, predictability. Shelves hold what you place on them. Drawers don't launch your spoons into other rooms. Lids keep containers loyal. When life behaves, it's easier to believe the brain behaves too. You saved it, therefore it is saved. A small, sturdy belief. And the belief isn't silly. It's reinforced all day. Your favorite password lives right where your fingers expect it to live. Your friend's name arrives when you see their face. Your bicycle feels like itself the second your foot touches the pedal. Do a thing enough times, and it becomes a neighborhood you can walk with your eyes half closed. The save and shut model borrows that feeling and spreads it across everything else. We layer in helpers to keep the faith strong. Sticky notes on the door, a calendar with bright squares, a to-do list that multiplies like friendly rabbits and still manages to make you feel organized. You start to think, if the outside is tidy, the inside must be tidy too. It's a fair guess. The brain seems to agree by showing up with names and numbers when asked, most of the time at least. But the mental desktop has a personality. It likes to collect little treasures you didn't mean to keep. The cereal jingle you heard once, the random fact a stranger told you in a line, the phrase from a billboard that refuses to leave. Meanwhile, a crucial detail slips away with the grace of a ghost. The apartment gate code, the one you promised yourself you'd remember because you looked right at it and said, yes, saved. The brain's autosave shows up like an enthusiastic intern who files the catchy tune in the front drawer and misplaces the gate code under mysteries. Still, we forgive it because most things do stay put. The general layout returns each morning, recognizable as your own. Yesterday's plan is still a plan. Yesterday's phone number still appears in your hand when you unlock the screen. The calm returns. Save and shut. Open and continue. This is where the picture gets its strength. It doesn't ask you to imagine any moving parts. Sleep is the pause button. Memory is the pause screen. The movie will resume when you press play. Clean, easy, familiar. Now let's tap the glass very lightly. If everything truly freezes at night, why does some of it wake up better? You practice a dance step in the evening. It's a little clumsy. Morning arrives, and your feet find the rhythm without quite knowing why. If the file stayed frozen, it should open with the same rough edges you closed it with. But often it doesn't. Something has smoothed a corner. You rehearse part of a speech. You can't get the cadence to settle. After sleep, it flows like water from a pitcher. Did the file edit itself? The save and shut model says no, and yet, poor, and there it is. Emotion plays by its own rules too. A moment that tugged at you may feel more memorable the next day, even if the details are fuzzy. Meanwhile, the parking spot you used for an hour evaporates like morning mist. If this were purely a storage problem, both should be equally available. They were in the same yesterday. But your mind treats them differently, and it's not random cruelty. It feels like a choice you didn't make on purpose. Dreams complicate the tidy picture in a gentle, mischievous way. They rearrange the furniture. They bring characters from different parts of your life to the same small table and ask them to share a dessert. If the files were sealed, how could characters mingle? How could a memory of your old classroom shake hands with last week's grocery run and decide to perform a duet? The save and shut story would keep everyone in their own folders, their own chairs, their own eras. There's also the morning sensation you know so well. The problem that felt stuck has less stick. You didn't add more working hours. You didn't twist the jar with extra force. But the lid turns. You tell yourself, I needed rest. And you're right. The question is, what did rest do? If the brain were a freezer, everything inside would be exactly as you left it. Cold, still, and waiting. Freezers are reliable that way. But your memories often come back warmer and easier to shape. Not because you worked on them, but because something in the dark worked on them for you. That is the first crack in the glass, and it isn't scary. It's a friendly sign on the door that reads, "Pardon our night crew." And what about the way forgetting behaves? You can haul a trivial jingle into next week while losing a useful number by breakfast. If the rule were saved stays, those two should be equal citizens. Instead, one stows away in the carry-on, humming, and the other somehow misses the flight. It suggests that storage is not the only rule. Selection is in play. Let's pause, not to solve anything, only to soften. Imagine warm blankets. Imagine a quiet room that forgives loose ends. You're not here to wrestle the model. You're just noticing where it breathes. So the short version, for now, is this. The save and shut picture feels good because life often behaves like a shelf. But lived experience adds extra notes. Morning smoothness, emotional stickiness, dream rearrangements that shelves can't explain. We'll keep holding this picture kindly while we ask what else might be happening when the lid is closed and the little light pulses like a cat breathing. Let's press one more finger to the edge of this picture and listen for the soft creak. The save and shut idea says sleep is a pause. Files wait, counters hold, shoe racks behave. But your mornings tell a different, kinder story. Some things don't just wait. They settle. They fit better. They return with fewer splinters. Think about names. You meet someone at dusk. The name slips and slides, won't sit still in your mouth. By morning, it lands faster. You didn't drill it overnight. Yet it's as if the label found the right hook. If the file were frozen, that hook should be as elusive as it was at dinner. But the hook appears. Consider cooking. You try a new stir-fry. The oil-to-heat ratio is awkward. You sleep. Next day, you move the pan with a calmer hand, as if the motion practiced itself while you dreamed about something else entirely. A frozen file cannot teach your wrist to be a little kinder, or navigation. You drive to a new place. The route is foggy in your mind. In the morning, the map feels simpler. You remember a clean turn, a landmark you barely noticed before. Frozen maps don't redraw themselves at night, yet the path looks freshly highlighted. Then there's the odd generosity of emotion. A conversation catches in your chest. You can't stop thinking about it. After sleep, the sharp edge isn't gone, but it's rounded. You can touch it without flinching. A pause button doesn't sand wood. Something moved slowly and without asking for applause. What about dreams? In a frozen world, they would be harmless screensavers. Fish gliding by, pipes bending, colors drifting. But your dreams invite characters from distant corners to share a table. They pitch odd teams, a teacher and a grocery list, a childhood hallway and today's coffee. They rearrange chairs and carry lamps across rooms. If the files were sealed, who opened the doors? There's also forgetting, and how strangely useful it can be. If saved means stored forever, then every parking spot should be as sticky as every poem line. Yet one fades, and the other lingers. The random jingle sings on, the throwaway code evaporates, and somehow your mind still feels efficient most days. Perhaps the missing detail wasn't meant to stay. Perhaps the system lets some sand sift out so the pebbles don't bury the shells. A freezer doesn't make choices. A caretaker does. We can be kind to the old picture while admitting its limits. It's a good first coat of paint. It keeps the weather off. But it doesn't explain why wood feels smoother in the morning, or why the color seems to deepen without another brush stroke. A pause can't do that. A pause pauses. A process changes. Picture this. Your mental laptop's little light isn't just pulsing because it's asleep. It's pulsing because something inside is quietly at work. Not frantic work, gentle work, the kind that prefers the hush of night to the noise of daytime alerts. Let's pause, feel the weight of blankets, hear the soft, familiar room that forgives loose ends. There's nothing you have to hold right now. If the thought slips, let it. It knows the way back. A tiny, cozy joke can sit here, too. You promise yourself that tomorrow you'll remember the one item the recipe truly needs. You wake with perfect recall of the cereal song instead. Your brain, the friendly landlord, has rented a loft to the jingle and sent the spice list a polite, maybe next time. It's not sabotage. It's preference. It's a hint that selection is happening behind the door. So the short version is the save and shut story explains why the desk looks familiar in the morning, but not why the drawers are tidier, why the tools feel better in your hand, or why the sharp edges have softened without you touching them. This doesn't mean your starting picture was wrong. It means it was incomplete. Good beginnings often are. The shelf does hold what you place on it. The lid does keep things from spilling. The rack does greet your shoes most of the time. But something else is happening when the room is dim and the world is quiet. Something that smooths, delivers, and edits, all in a tone softer than whisper. You don't have to learn the machinery to trust the effect. You've lived the effect for years. Morning clarity that didn't ask for midnight effort. Calm that arrived after a simple closing of eyes. A better turn, a cleaner line, a gentler heart. The save and shut frame bows to those moments, and makes room for a second frame beside it. Let's make a small, friendly bridge to that second frame. If sleep were only a freeze, nothing would improve in the dark. Files would open as they closed. Feelings would hold the same angles. Steps would keep the same stumbles. But they don't, not always. Often, you walk out into the day and find the path swept, the mail delivered, so the story edited into a smoother cut. Not because you stayed up fixing it, but because something worked while you rested. So the short version is, what we need is a picture with motion, but not stress, with kindness, not chaos. A picture that keeps the comfort of shelves and lids and racks and adds the warmth of a night crew who knows where things belong. Take one more easy breath. Let it be shorter in, longer out. If your eyes are heavy, that's welcome. If you're wide awake, also welcome. Either way, your mind is practicing the feeling we're about to name. We'll step there next, without hurrying. We'll meet the idea that sleep isn't a shutdown at all, but a shift change. A gentle crew taking over when the world goes dim. Light work, steady hands, small machines humming where no one is offended by the hour. So the short version is, the save and shut story is a kind prologue. The next chapter is the night shift. The gentle twist begins like this. The sleep isn't a blackout curtain. It's a shift change. The lights don't vanish. They change color. Daytime steps back, and a quiet crew clocks in. Your mind doesn't close. It rearranges itself for night work, choosing softer shoes and a calmer voice. Picture a library after closing. Doors locked, echoes fading, and then the hush changes shape. Librarians glide between aisles, not because readers are watching, but because tomorrow will be kinder if tonight is careful. They gather books that wandered, poetry hiding with cookbooks, travel essays napping among the mysteries. Bent corners get smoothed, dust jackets find their sleeves. A small cart rattles gently, not in a hurry, just steady. When dawn comes, a reader will reach for a title and almost without thinking, find it exactly where it should be. That ease is not an accident. It was earned in quiet. Your sleeping mind does its version of that, not because you told it to, but because it prefers order to clutter. During the day, ideas scatter like enthusiastic patrons, leaving books wherever inspiration struck. At night, the crew makes rounds, gathering, grouping, and nudging each story toward the shelf that feels like home. Define before naming. You meet the job first, tidying, repairing, reshelving, and the labels can wait. You don't need a floor plan to feel the library working for you. There's also a city at night layer to this truth. The avenues don't disappear when the shops close. They change tempo. Street sweepers hum along the curbs, a soft brush and whir. Traffic lights stretch their greens because fewer travelers need the intersection at once. Maintenance crews take lanes while most of the city sleeps, tightening bolts no one notices until the day would wobble without them. Your brain has that same civic sense. It uses the quiet to keep tomorrow from snagging on tonight's loose screws. We'll move through 3 broad night shifts with household handles, the kind your hands already know. There's the night sweep, the early pass that smooths the roads and shields the useful signals from stray noise. There is the glue and the postman, the deep work that moves messages out of the crowded Today box and delivers them to the long-term shelves where they'll be found without rummaging. And there is the dream editor, a late shift that crossfades scenes, tests gentle links, and rounds the sharp edges of feeling so they're easier to hold in daylight. You don't have to memorize the roster. It will visit you in cycles. First a sweep to calm the streets, then a delivery round to settle what matters in sturdy places, then a creative edit to try connections and soften glare. We'll meet each job as a simple act you can feel, and only then, if you enjoy names, we can whisper them. For now, let the handles do the holding. A quick smile at the brain's lost and found, Every library has one: a basket with a mitten from last winter, receipts that meant something to someone, a bookmark that insists it belongs to every book. Your mind keeps a similar basket. Snippets land there: catchy lines, tiny facts, a melody with too much confidence. The night crew checks the basket with care. Some items get claimed and reshelved. Others are kindly released, because keeping everything turns paths into thickets, not because your brain is careless, but because it's considerate. Let's pause. Breathe in softly and out a touch longer. You're not required to hold the whole map. The crew knows the stacks. You can stroll. The library image and the city at night image work together. One is about finding the right place for each story. The other is about keeping the streets clear so stories can travel. Together, they describe a mind that is active in the gentlest sense, protecting what helps, making room by letting clutter drift away, and preparing morning to feel more like a glide than a scramble. You may notice how this twist changes the feeling of forgetting. In a shutdown world, forgetting looks like failure. The file was there, and now it's gone. In a night shift world, forgetting can be pruning. A gardener snips tiny branches so sunlight reaches the fruit. The tree isn't losing, it's shaping its strength. And your mind does that too. The parking spot vanishes, so the poem survives. The jingle lingers only until the crew decides the front shelf is meant for something else. Selection isn't sabotage, it's design. We'll keep the rhythm light: question, image, and calm takeaway. Small cycles, often, no need to strain. When a piece feels dense, a breathing point will follow, the way a librarian pauses to listen for the quiet clicking of a well-placed book. A touch of warm humor belongs here. Somewhere in the archives, a sock from your day ends up in the lost and found, and later, it auditions as a puppet in a dream cameo. That's the dream editor borrowing props. No one is alarmed. The crew has keys to every cabinet and the good sense to return things in better order than they found them. So the short version is, sleep is an active caretaker, not a shutdown, but a shift change. While you rest, the night crew sorts, fixes, and stitches your day into something easier to carry. When we continue, we'll walk the rounds in order. First the night sweep, then the glue and the postman, then the dream editor. After each, a tiny summary will set your attention down like a teacup. And at the end, a small question will open the next door. If the crew is sorting, what tells them what to keep? First, the night sweep. Early in the night, the crew takes a quiet lap through the streets of your mind. The point isn't speed, it's clarity. Busy lanes are hushed, detours are gently closed, and wandering traffic is asked to pause. Imagine little hand signals that say, "You first," to the useful caravans, and "hold a moment," to the noisy mopeds of distraction. The goal is simple: keep the helpful messages from getting jostled by leftover chatter. Daytime scatters crumbs everywhere: a tune, a headline, a stray comment, a dozen half-finished tabs in your head. The sweep doesn't scold any of it. It just lowers the volume, as if speaking in a library voice to the entire city. With the background softened, the important messages can line up, like neighbors who finally hear their own doorbells because the street party has moved indoors. You don't have to supervise. The sweep prefers you asleep. This is the phase that makes tomorrow feel less static-filled. Signals travel cleanly. They don't bump into as much noise. The step you practiced has room to breathe. The name you learned yesterday doesn't have to shout over yesterday's noise. The sweep clears the lane just enough for the useful to pass. Let's pause. An easy inhale, a slower exhale. Imagine a street lamp settling its glow on a newly swept corner. So the short version is, the night sweep hushes the neighborhood so important messages can glide through. Then comes the glue and the postman. Picture a central hub where the day dropped everything: notes, impressions, tiny scenes, larger stories. It's a friendly mess. You can't keep it all in the hub. It would overflow by noon tomorrow. The night crew sorts the mail, rolls up sleeves, and begins the rounds. Some messages are short, the kind you stick to the door. Buy lemons. Others are heavier and need a real address, the recipe itself, the rhythm of the new step, the face that belongs to a name. The postman doesn't ask, will this be important for the rest of your life? The postman asks, where will this be easiest to find when you need it? Then the deliveries begin, quiet, steady, door by door. This is also where glue shows its kindness. Fresh things are fragile. If you leave them jostling in a pile, they smudge. If you give them time and calm, they set. A fact goes from maybe to I know. Emotion goes from wobbly to sure. A story goes from loose pages to bound. Not because you forced it, but because the glue had a chance to dry without fingerprints poking at it. The delivery round saves you work tomorrow. The hub resets. The shelves grow organized. When daylight asks a question, you can reach for an answer without rummaging through yesterday's basket. The step is where you expect it. The name arrives at the right door. The lemon note can safely vanish once the recipe lives in a better home. A gentle joke belongs here. The mailroom also receives unhelpful celebrities, catchy jingles, random trivia with too much confidence. The crew smiles, stamps some return to sender, and files others in the this might be useful for a party drawer. Not everything gets a front porch. Front porches are for the pieces you'll actually look for. If you've ever woken feeling strangely ready for a task you dreaded, you've felt this round. The work didn't get bigger. The mess got smaller. The paths between pieces got cleaner. The doorways stopped sticking. You step through and realize how much energy was saved by a map you didn't have to draw at 7 a.m. Let's pause. Think of a notebook you don't have to flip through because the page is already tabbed. So the short version is, deep in the night, deliveries happen and new memories set, freeing the hub for tomorrow. Notice how both shifts respect forgetting. The sweep lowers noise. Some crumbs drift into the gutter on purpose. The deliveries reserve prime addresses for keepers. Some flyers never make it past the lobby. This isn't neglect, it's design. A gardener snips so sunlight reaches the fruit. A librarian reshelves the classics and lets last week's newspaper cycle out. A city keeps main roads smooth by not paving every alley at full width. The kindness is in the choosing. You might wonder, how does the crew know what to keep? We'll answer soon. For now, hold the hint. What matters to you, what repeats, what carries feeling, what links to your goals, usually wears a little tag that says, "Deliver me." The crew notices tags. It also notices emptiness. A note that never gets asked for can quietly fade without drama, making room for notes that will ring the bell tomorrow. We still have one shift to meet, the dream editor. After the streets are calm and the deliveries are made, the editor rolls a chair to the desk. Scenes from the day, older scenes from the archives, moods that still glow at the edges. These become clips to arrange. The editor tries a crossfade here, a gentle cut there, a soft overlay of feeling across a fact. The goal isn't perfect accuracy. The goal is flow, a story that plays without snagging on every seam. The dream editor also borrows props from the lost and found. A sock becomes a puppet. A grocery list sings backup for a childhood hallway. It's funny because it's safe. It's useful because new connections sometimes need a dress rehearsal. If two ideas can stand next to each other in a dream without fighting, they might stand next to each other in daylight and make a new thought. Before we sit with that editor in detail, let's breathe once more, in softly, out longer. If your attention wobbles, that's fine. The crew keeps working whether you watch or not. So the short version is, after the sweep and the deliveries, a gentle edit tests connections and rounds off sharp edges. We'll take up that edit next, and we'll plant the question that opens the next door. If the crew is sorting and delivering, what tells them what to keep and what to let drift kindly away? Now, the dream editor takes the chair. The city is quiet. The shelves are neat. The editor rolls through your clips without hurry. A scene from breakfast, a line from a book, a feeling from a talk that tugged at you. The editor does not judge. It arranges. A crossfade joins two moments that never met. A soft cut removes a frame that only made the story stumble. The result is not a documentary. It's a smoother path for tomorrow's thinking. You notice it by feel. A puzzle that snagged last night slips more easily now. A metaphor arrives for a tough idea. A choice that felt tangled shows one clear loop to pull. The editor has tried versions while you slept, the way hands fold laundry until the shirt agrees with the drawer. The editor also rounds the sharp edges of feeling. Yesterday's spike becomes a hill you can walk. Not because the event vanished, but because the lighting changed. The glare softened. You can look at it without blinking hard. That is not denial. That is care. And yes, the lost and found becomes a prop box. A stray sock earns a lead role as a puppet who introduces your math teacher to a grocery list. A bus ticket plays door person to your childhood hallway. It's silly on purpose. Silly lets the system test joins without risk. If two ideas can share a table in a dream, they might share a project in the morning. If a feeling can sit beside a fact without pushing it off the bench, you may remember both with less noise. Let's pause. A soft inhale, a longer exhale, nothing to grip. The edit will hold. So the short version is, the dream editor links, trims, and softens so tomorrow flows. You might wonder whether the editor ever goes too far. Sometimes it experiments with a cut you don't keep. A wild connection wakes you at 3 a.m. and dissolves by breakfast. That's okay. Drafts are part of the job. You don't need every version. You only need enough to make thinking feel kinder at 9 o'clock. This is a good place to restate the define before naming promise. You've met the jobs: sweep, deliver, and edit. Only later, if you want, we can whisper titles. You already know what they do. Labels can't make the work more real than your own morning experience. Now about forgetting. In a shutdown story, forgetting looks like a leak. In a night shift story, forgetting looks like pruning. A gardener doesn't hate leaves. A gardener makes space for fruit. The sweep lets crumbs drift. The postman reserves the good porches for useful mail. The editor cuts the scene that only repeats the point, not because your mind is failing, but because it's choosing light over clutter. This reframe changes how you relate to lapses. You can be gentler with the parking spot that evaporated and grateful for the poem line that stayed. You can allow the jingle to stay a night in the front room and then politely move along. You can forgive a detail that didn't get a claim ticket. Kind systems make choices. Your mind is a kind system most days. Let's set a tiny rhythm you can return to when you feel full. Question, image, calm line. Try it here. Why do some ideas click after sleep? Because a quiet editor tested joins while you rested. So the short version is, your nights are working hours you don't have to work. A touch of gentle humor before we plant the seed for next time. Somewhere, your inner librarian is still rescuing a bookmark that tried to elope with a cookbook. Somewhere, your street sweeper is humming, very proud of a corner you'll never notice was briefly messy. Somewhere, your editor is applauding a sock puppet cameo that absolutely did not need a second take. Let's pause. Feel the weight of the bed, the steadiness of breath. You're not behind. You're not late. The crew has the keys. Here comes the curiosity seed for the next section. If the crew is sorting and delivering and editing, what tells them what to keep? Why does one note get a front porch while another drifts kindly away. How does a moment earn a claim ticket? Hold only this hint. Meaning and emotion act like tags. Repetition helps too. The things you use, the things that move you, the things you touch more than once, those shine a little brighter to the crew. They say, "Deliver me, please." We'll open that door soon with a coat check image you can feel in your hand. Before we close, one last gentle cadence. Sleep is not lights out in a warehouse. Sleep is lights changed, crew arrived, work begun. So the short version is, sleep is an active caretaker that sorts, fixes, and stitches your day. Think of the end of a cozy show. People drift toward the lobby, scarves loop back around necks, and the coat check hums with a quiet rhythm. The attendant smiles, looks at each tiny paper ticket, and never joined a story. No tag. You didn't fail. The code simply didn't make a case for itself. Next time, you might wrap it in meaning. Say it as you park. Write it with a silly rhythm. Use it twice. You're not forcing memory. You're pinning a little ticket to the lapel. Let's keep our gentle promise to define before naming. We'll keep calling them the Today Box and the long-term shelves for now. Later, if you want, we'll whisper the official labels. But you've already met their jobs. Collect, then file. You've met the coat check. Match the right claim to the right coat. You've met the tags, meaning repetition, emotion. We can lightly preview the night's route with these tags in mind. During the night sweep, that early hush, tagged messages get a clearer lane. During the glue and the postman, those tagged pieces will leave the Today Box and walk to their real addresses on the long-term shelves. During the dream editor, tagged memories find cousins they didn't know they had and test new handshakes. You don't need to memorize this. It will unfold the way warm bread opens under a knife. A tiny, cozy laugh belongs here. Your brain's autosave loves to catch the catchy and miss the practical. A serial jingle slides into a front hook, wearing a glittering ME ticket, while the dull 6-digit code sulks near the unclaimed rack. You can nudge the balance by handing the code a tag. Repeat it, sing it, link it to a door you care about. You're not wrestling the system, you're speaking its gentle language. So the short version is, your brain isn't a hoarder, it's a thoughtful coat check. Tags help it hand you the right warm thing when you ask in the morning. When you're ready, we can walk a little deeper into how tags get placed, how use, story, and feeling turn a passerby into a keeper, and what happens to the unclaimed items that wait politely on the rack. Let's watch how a tag lands, gently and on purpose, even when you aren't trying. You repeat a new name out loud once as you part ways. It's a single thread, easy to lose. Later that evening, you send a brief message that uses the name again. Now there are 2 threads. Before bed, you recall one tiny detail about the conversation and say the name a 3rd time, softly to yourself. 3 threads twist into a cord. No force, just a little repetition. The tag brightens, meaning works the same quiet way. A fact not tied to anything can feel like a coat adrift. Nice fabric, no owner. But if that fact clicks to a purpose, it declares itself. A cooking temperature connects to a dish you love to make for someone you love to feed. A date clicks to a plan you're excited to keep. A procedure links to a skill that matters to your own little craft. The coat suddenly has a monogram. The attendant barely needs the ticket. Emotion, too, can place a tag with the lightest touch. Not drama, just spark. A line in a poem knocks politely, and you feel a yes. A friend's story lifts your chest. A small success warms your hands the way a mug does in a cool kitchen. Those are feelings that whisper, "Keep this." Your brain listens more carefully to whispers than we give it credit for. Let's pause. An easy inhale and a longer exhale. Nothing to remember here, just noticing. Now, about the Today box and the long-term shelves. The box by the door is perfect for catching new things. It isn't meant to be a forever home. If it tried, it would overflow and tip, and you'd spend mornings fishing through a jumble. The shelves across the hall don't grab every passing item. They host the pieces that will matter again. The tags are how the night crew decides what graduates from the box to the shelves without turning the hallway into a moving day. A friendly misunderstanding often sneaks in here. You might think, if I don't hold it tightly now, I'll lose it. But clenched hands are slippery. Light touch and honest use work better. Tell the new idea to someone. Tie it to a reason you care about. Touch it again at a different time of day. The coat check loves multiple small claims, more than one frantic wave. Not because you didn't try hard enough, but because the system trusts patterns and purpose more than panic. Your mind also loves stories. A loose fact becomes a keeper when a story adopts it. The gate code on its own is brittle. The code that gets me to the studio where the piano sits is already sturdier. One more link, where I'm learning that left-hand pattern I want to play for my dad, and the tag glows. It's the same 6 digits, but now the digits belong to a life, not just a keypad. The attendant doesn't just see a number, they see who will be cold without that coat. A tiny vignette, gentle and true. A student meets a poem with a friend. They read it once. A line taps the window. They speak it aloud, and the friend smiles. The student copies the line into a small notebook, then closes the notebook and sighs in the friendliest way. Later that night, while brushing teeth, the line returns, and never joined a story. No tag. You didn't fail. The code simply didn't make a case for itself. Next time, you might wrap it in meaning. Say it as you park. Write it with a silly rhythm. Use it twice. You're not forcing memory. You're pinning a little ticket to the lapel. Let's keep our gentle promise to define before naming. We'll keep calling them the Today box and the long-term on its own. Morning comes, and the words feel closer, like a cup moved to the front of the cabinet. Emotion placed the first tag. Repetition added another. Meaning, this tells a truth I needed. Stitched both to the sleeve. No drill, just 3 soft yeses. So the short version is, tags grow from use, purpose, and feeling, even in tiny doses. There is kindness in what gets left behind, too. The untagged details are not scolded. They simply drift to the unclaimed rack. A parking stall that served for an hour bows out. A random headline evaporates without causing a scene. A list of items you only needed for one afternoon thanks you for the hospitality and returns its key. The brain would be mean if it made you carry all of that upstairs. It's not mean, it's tidy. Sometimes, of course, the unclaimed rack holds something you suddenly want. You pat your pockets for a code that never stuck. You can give it a tag retroactively. Say it while using it. Link it to a purpose. Let a dab of emotion in. This gets me to a place I want to go. You're not bargaining. You're giving the attendant a number. Let's pause. Notice a quiet drawer that opens and shuts without clatter. That's how this can feel. You might wonder how the tags travel through the night. During the night sweep, noise lowers, so the tagged pieces don't get jostled. During the glue and the postman, tagged items leave the Today box and find addresses on the long-term shelves. During the dream editor, those tagged pieces meet cousins, older things you knew once, ideas nearby, and test soft bridges. A tagged recipe tweak might meet a memory of your grandmother's kitchen and learn a simpler route to your hands. A tagged name might attach itself to a small story, so it arrives with more grace. We can lean on the post-it note image here. The tag is the little neon square that says "Deliver Me." The night crew sees the square from across the room. Some squares are bright because they were touched 3 times. Some are bright because they matter to a project. Some are bright because they carry a feeling. The note doesn't have to be a paragraph. It can be one dot that says, "Important." The dot is enough. A domestic joke can sit beside this without getting in the way. Your brain will sometimes pin a neon square to the cereal jingle, certain that one day you'll need to sing it perfectly at a formal event. You won't, that's fine. The crew has a sense of humor. It will let the jingle enjoy a brief front hook stay and then quietly demote it to the party tricks drawer. So the short version is, if it lights your purpose, repeats in your hands, or tugs your feelings, it wears a brighter tag. The rest can stand politely at the rack without crowding you. A word on fairness. This system can feel unfair when something useful slips. But fairness isn't the point. Fit is. The coat check serves tomorrow's self by keeping essentials reachable. If an item is truly essential and it slipped, you can help it fit, touch it again, tie it to meaning, let it ride on a small feeling. This is not hacking your brain. It's speaking to it in a voice it trusts. Let's add one more tiny scene. You're practicing a left-hand pattern at the keyboard. It's clumsy. You smile at the clumsiness instead of bracing against it. That tiny smile is a tag. You play it twice more, a little slower, noticing the moment it clicks once, then drops, then clicks. Those are repetitions. You picture playing it for someone you love next week. That's meaning. You close the lid, leave the room, and the pattern rides into the evening with 3 bright squares pinned to it. Night knows what to do. So the short version is, you don't need to force tags. You can invite them with gentle use, purpose, and feeling. We'll wander one step further in the final part. What happens to the unclaimed items? How forgetting keeps the path clear? And how the night crew reads these tags without you lifting a finger? When you're ready, we'll walk there, unhurried. Let's talk about what happens to the unclaimed items, the ones without tags, or with tags so faint they barely glow. They don't get scolded. They don't get tossed in a bin labeled failures. They drift toward a quiet, unclaimed rack. From there, some will fade on their own. Others will be repurposed, their material used to pad the ideas that stayed. Think compost more than trash. What doesn't remain as a whole can still feed the soil that grows what matters. This is the kindness in forgetting. Your mind is not trying to make you scramble. It's trying to keep your paths walkable. If every leaflet from the day demanded a front hook, you'd never find your coat. If every headline stayed loud, you'd never hear your own name. Forgetting is not because you're careless, but because your system prefers clarity over clutter. The gate code that never joined a story will fade, so the poem line that steadies you can stay near the door. So the short version is, forgetting is the tidy friend of remembering. How does the crew read the tags without you helping? The glow is in the way you used the thing while awake. Use creates little echoes. Repetition lays gentle footsteps in the hallway. Meaning ties a note to a door you actually open. Emotion leaves a warmth that lingers. When evening arrives, those echoes are easy to follow. The night sweep lowers the noise, so the echoes don't get drowned. The deliveries use the echoes like addresses. The dream editor treats the echoes as invitations to try links. If a piece carried no echo, never used, never felt, never linked, it can still be reclaimed. You can add a tag later by touching it again with purpose. Whisper it while doing it. Connect it to why it matters. Smile, even a little. That's not a trick. It's honest use. Your mind believes what you repeat and what you care about. It puts those on the front hook. Let's pause. One soft breath in, one longer out. You're not required to rescue anything tonight. The crew knows the way. The Today box sometimes feels overstuffed by bedtime. That's normal. It did its job, caught everything without asking questions. The night crew asks the questions for you. Will you need this again? Does it belong to something you love? Did it show up twice? If yes, a small, bright square sticks to the sleeve. If not, the item waits on the unclaimed rack, and that's often the best outcome. A clear counter beats a stack of flyers. There's a gentle fairness hiding here. The system is not grading you. It is fitting itself to your life. If your life changes, the fit changes. A once useless skill becomes relevant, and with a few uses, starts wearing tags. An old fact reconnects because a new project needs it. You haven't lost it forever. You've simply stopped reserving a front row seat for it. Seats can be reassigned. A tiny example you've likely felt. You learned a word long ago and never used it. One day you hear it in a conversation that matters to you. You use it once, then again. That word perks up, moves from the back row to the aisle. The attendant didn't hold a grudge. The coat just finally sleep got a claim ticket. So the short version is, the system is flexible. Tags change when your life does. The dream editor uses tags too, but in a playful way. When two tagged pieces sit near each other, the editor tests a bridge. A name attaches to a tiny story. A recipe tweak finds a shorter route through your hands because it links to an older kitchen memory. A left-hand pattern pairs with a flicker of pride and becomes easier to reach. The editor is not trying to be odd. It's trying to find paths you'll actually walk in daylight. Humor can sit here like a friendly cup on a table. Sometimes the editor gives a glittering VIP badge to a serial jingle and lets it perform beyond its skill level. The crew is indulgent for a night. In the morning, the badge falls off and the jingle heads to the party tricks drawer. Useful things keep the real address. Let's pause. Feel how this relieves pressure. You don't have to clutch anything. Use it kindly, and the system will help you keep it. If you want a soft way to invite tags without forcing them, here are 3 quiet moves that fit inside normal days. Touch it twice. Say the name now, then say it again to someone else. Use the idea once, then glance at it before you sleep. 2 touches create a path. A third makes it visible in the dark. Tie it to a why. Link the item to a goal, a person, or a joy. This step helps me feel steadier. This code gets me to music. This fact helps me tell a better story. Add a feeling the size of a nod. It doesn't need fireworks, a smile, a moment of awe, a breath of relief. Feeling is a highlighter pen you don't have to cap. So the short version is repeat lightly, connect honestly, feel a little. That's enough. You may ask, what about the stubborn things that won't stick? Treat them like coats that need a brighter claim ticket. Increase one of the tags. Use it again in context. Tie it to a reason that matters more. Or change the coat. Rephrase the fact. Reorganize the step. Rename the folder. Sometimes the idea stays slippery because its form doesn't fit your hand yet. And the pieces you don't want to keep, let the unclaimed rack do its work. You can even help by not feeding them fresh tags. Don't rehearse the throwaway detail. Don't assign it a story. Let it fade so the shelves can host what you truly need, not because you must be ruthless, but because space is a kindness you give tomorrow's self. Let's pause. A breath that starts small and ends wide. If a thought left, good. If it stayed, also good. Both are part of the same care. A quick recap in 3 lines you can carry. Tags come from use, purpose, and feeling. The night crew reads tags without you. Unclaimed items make room. Keepers get a front hook. So the short version is, what matters, or moves you, gets a brighter bookmark for the night crew. Before we close this gate, a gentle bridge to what comes next. Those tagged pieces still need safe passage through the night. Early on, the night sweep lowers the noise so they can travel. Later, the glue and the postman move them from the today box to the long-term shelves. Finally, the dream editor lets them meet their cousins and find friendlier routes. You don't have to remember those steps now. You'll meet them by feel, one calm round at a time. For tonight, keep only this. Your brain isn't hoarding, it's curating. It keeps what you use, what you care about, and what touches your heart. And it does most of the work while you rest. Early in the night, a gentle job begins. The city of your mind is still glowing from the day. Headlines, errands, small victories, a few almost arguments you won by thinking of the perfect reply 3 hours too late. Then the tempo changes, lanes quiet, windows dim. The night sweep rolls out with soft brushes and a steady hum. Think of a friendly street sweeper. No rush, no siren, just the whisper of bristles washing the curbs. Long green lights lean across empty intersections, and crosswalks wait without tapping their feet. That is light sleep. It doesn't shut the place down. It sets the rhythm so the useful traffic can move without getting elbowed by glitter and noise. All day, your head is a parade. A tune cuts in front of a thought. A text waves its arms from the sidewalk. A memory drops a flyer on your porch and runs. In light sleep, none of that is an enemy, but it all needs a softer voice. Imagine a neighbor who notices your kettle singing and turns their radio down without being asked. That's the mood. The night sweep is good manners, applied to the whole neighborhood. Inside, little events happen, too small to name and just right to feel. Call them tiny hushes or protective taps, brief, polite signals that say, let this pass and keep that quiet. They don't feel like fireworks. They feel like someone placing a finger to their lips in a library. A tagged message, a name you'll want, a step you practiced, a line from a poem, gets waved through the intersection. A random crumb of nonsense gets the slow palm. Hold up? Not tonight. You've felt the entrance to this phase 1,000 times. The pillow catches your head, and the room steps back a few feet, as if it respects your space. Sounds go soft at the edges. A car rolls by, but seems far away, even if it isn't. Your own thoughts stop taking up so much elbow room. You are still you, but simplified. The day is still there, but gentler. That's the sweep taking its first lap. Let's pause, inhale lightly, and let that exhale be a little longer. Nothing to do, just the sound of a clean street under warm lamps. Function first, names later. Light sleep has a job, not a resume. It reduces stray noise, so meaningful signals can be heard. It protects fragile bits, the ones that might smear if they were pushed through a crowd. And it starts polishing useful patterns, smoothing the first rough edges so tomorrow's hand can grip them more easily. Not a full shine, a first pass with a soft cloth. Consider your keys. There's a difference between putting them on a hook by the door and tossing them into the laundry basket with one sock. Light sleep is the hook. It doesn't change the keys. It just makes sure the place they belong is obvious when morning asks. The laundry basket method also stores them, technically. But good luck finding them when you need to leave in 11 minutes and you're already wearing one shoe. Daytime can be the laundry basket. Light sleep brings back the hook. Here's a cozy picture. A long boulevard at midnight. Empty enough that you can hear your own footsteps, safe enough that you don't rush. The street sweeper murmurs along one side. A cyclist glides past without calling because there's nothing to warn you about. Even the traffic lights seem to breathe. Green a beat longer than usual. Red unbothered. Yellow not in a hurry to prove anything. This is what your mind is doing for itself and for you. It isn't raking the ground. It's smoothing it. Another way to feel it, the early night doze. You turn on your side. The day shrinks to a simpler version. The talk you had becomes 2 or 3 clear lines, not a full script. The plan for tomorrow downgrades from 12 points to 3. The mental crowd thins until you can quietly hear, yes, this, not that. Let this wait. Those tiny hushes show up like curtains that muffle sound. When a tagged message wants to cross, say the correct rhythm for the sentence you'll speak tomorrow. One hush falls over the street, so it can pass without being bumped by the ad jingle that still wants to dance in the crosswalk. The jingle doesn't get arrested. It just waits for a quieter corner. Light sleep doesn't judge the jingle. It respects the schedule. The parade had its time. Now the maintenance crew needs room. Without that room, even strong memories get scuffed. With that room, even delicate ones can, a gentle bridge to what comes next. Those tagged pieces still need safe passage through the night. Early on, the night sweep lowers the noise so they can travel. Later, the glue and the postman move them from the today box to the long-term shelves. Finally, the dream editor lets them meet their cousins and find friendlier route travel. Let's pause. Inhale through the nose if that's easy, then let the exhale pour out like water leaving a cup. Shoulders can settle a centimeter. Here's a common moment that belongs to this sweep. You practiced a tiny motion today, turning your wrist just so, placing a finger just there. It was inconsistent, like a blink that couldn't decide if it was a wink. In light sleep, that motion is not rehearsed in a flashy way. It simply gets protected while the system marks its lane. Tomorrow, your hand finds the motion with less static, not perfect, just cleaner. That's what a first polish feels like. A cloth, not a chisel. Another moment, you met someone and repeated their name once or twice. Right now, it's a fragile thing, like chalk writing on a finger. The sweep doesn't cement it. It prevents smudges. It asks the breezes to be gentle until deeper work can happen later. In the morning, the chalk line hasn't become stone yet, but it also hasn't blown away. Humor can stand here in slippers. Light sleep is the friend who whispers, let's put the keys on the hook, while your other friend insists on the laundry basket system because it's flexible. The basket friend is chaos in a cozy cardigan. The hook friend wins this round. Notice how function stays center stage. No heavy terms needed. We're not opening a toolbox of jargon. We're describing what your experience already knows. Light sleep guards the doorways, dims the lobby, and runs a soft brush along the curb. It is the kind of work that makes later work possible. A small triad to anchor what you've heard. Tagged items are protected. A courteous after you in the crosswalk. Stray noise is lowered. Radios turned down so kettles can be heard. Useful patterns get a first polish. A soft cloth, not a finished coat. Let's pause. Another easy breath, as if the night itself were breathing with you. You might notice something else. The feeling of distance from things that would normally jump out at you. The phone buzzes, and for once you do not feel drafted. A worry tries to wave, and you wave back without inviting it to sit. This is not force. This is the sweep doing its job. It doesn't ban worries. It gives them a later slot. Early in the night, you roll into this state and out again a few times, like docking. Each return smooths a little more. Each pass gives the important traffic a cleaner lane. You don't have to manage the schedule. Your only task is the blanket, the pillow, the way your breath shortens the distance between you and rest. A tiny benediction for this lap. You may let the small things wait on the curb. The sweeper knows the route. The lights know when to hold green a little longer. The radio knows when to be kind. Nothing urgent is being ignored. It's being cued. One last line to carry to the next part. Smoothing is not the same as storing. The streets can be perfect and still need deliveries. That's the work to come later in the night. For now, enjoy the quiet sidewalks and the orderly crossings. You're already farther along the road than you think, so the short version is light sleep tidies the streets so precious cargo can travel safely. Light sleep also changes the way signals line up. In the day, messages cut into the queue. Alerts, memories, plans, tiny worries waving like they're hailing a cab. In the night sweep, lines form politely. Tagged messages step forward two at a time. Unnecessary chatter takes a number and discovers to its surprise that it's not needed after all. This lining up is quiet work, almost shy, and you feel it as relief rather than effort. You know the feeling. You're drifting, not yet deep, and the edges of sound feel padded. A cupboard closes somewhere and arrives as a soft thumb, not a demand. The thought that insisted on attention earlier now behaves like a friendly guest who finally found the right volume for the living room. You didn't negotiate. The sweep handled it with a nod. There's a simple rule here. What you'll use tomorrow gets a wider lane tonight. The name you'll need, the step you'll take, the reply you'll give, the route you'll drive, each is offered a clearer path. Not because you begged, but because the night sweep prefers usefulness over noise. The glitter can sparkle later. The lane belongs to what helps. Let's pause. Breathe in just enough. Breathe out a little longer. No scoreboard, no goals, just a longer lane. The sweep is also good at closing tiny doors that don't need to swing anymore. A half-finished worry, a sub-idea of a sub-idea, a what-if that was only rehearsing for nothing. Doors eased shut, not slammed. If you wake briefly, the corridor feels shorter. You could investigate, but you don't. The hall is dim, kind, and not very interested in drama. Humor tiptoes in. The sweep is the friend who labels the spice jars cumin and definitely not cinnamon, sparing you an adventurous cookie. It's the difference between sliding a note into the right folder and stuffing it in a pocket that will visit the washing machine. Keys on a hook, not in the laundry basket with the one sock, plotting a spin cycle escape. Another way to feel this, attention stops tripping over itself. In wakefulness, you can be mid-thought and still step on your own toes. Memory of a song tripping your plan to buy lemon zest, tripping a text you forgot to send, tripping a worry about whether lemon zest is different from lemon peel. In light sleep, the hallway is clear. Each thought keeps to its lane until it's time to merge, and even then, the merge is a polite zipper instead of a honking contest. So the short version is, lining up beats piling up, especially at night. Light sleep gives fragile bits a small escort, not an armored car, just two calm ushers who walk beside a new step, a brand new name, a phrase that isn't strong yet. Their job is simple, keep elbows away. A late bus of distractions arrives. The ushers lift a palm, and the bus sighs and idles without complaint. Morning thanks them. The step is still there to practice. The name is still on its hook. You don't have to supervise this. You don't have to picture it correctly. You can simply enjoy the feeling that less is jostling you. Early night dozing has that signature. Fewer bumps, more glide. The background hum is a blanket, not a swarm. Let's pause. If you like, let the exhale last 2 heartbeats longer than the inhale. If counting feels like work, forget it. just longer or out than in. Here's a small trio of common moments that belong to the sweep. You're almost asleep and remember you forgot to send a message. The idea rises, then sets, then rises again, smaller each time, until it accepts its turn. The sweep took the urgency out of it, without erasing the note. A tune tries to dance under your eyelids. It keeps time, then loses interest when the streetlights refuse to clap. The sweep didn't hate the song. It just stopped giving it a stage. An argument rehearses itself, but the words come out as soft shapes without sharp corners. No audience, no performance. The sweep drew the curtain and dimmed the house. So the short version is, urgency goes to bed earlier than you do. We can grant the sweep a few more gentle jobs. It quietly marks boundaries, so tomorrow's deliveries won't spill. It separates signals that were smudging together. It sands a rough patch, so a wheel won't rattle in the morning. Each job is a one-liner. Nothing is grand. Everything is helpful. Think of how a faint pattern begins to declare itself. You practiced a chord, and it was muddy. In light sleep, the tones don't learn new notes. They simply stop bumping one another. Morning arrives, and the shape is cleaner, as if someone erased a single stray line you kept drawing by accident. That's the sweep. First pass, soft cloth, and notice the distance effect again. The moment you're in this state, the room feels bigger, even though you haven't moved. Space appears where clutter was. You are not white-knuckling calm. You are simply being placed in a calmer room by the staff that knows you. You are welcomed, not managed, a friendly joke. The sweep has a petty rivalry with the part of you that hides things somewhere safe. The sweep prefers somewhere obvious. If it could, it would label that mysterious safe place, please never again, and affix a forwarding notice to your nightstand. So the short version is, obvious beats safe where you'll never look. If you ever worry that light sleep isn't real sleep, consider what you feel when you slip out of it too soon. The world sounds too close, thoughts have elbows again, and small decisions feel squeaky. That squeak is what the sweep was oiling. Its work counts, even if it looks modest on paper. Small hinges, big doors. Let's pause. Imagine the quiet confidence of a corridor where every bulb works and no one is rushing. Light sleep also helps decide what can wait. The mind loves to start 10 projects at once. Lists, replies, brilliant plans to reorganize the entire kitchen at midnight. The sweep smiles and says, tomorrow. Not as a scold, but as a blessing. Tomorrow is when a cleared desk will meet you halfway. Tonight is for clearing, not building. This doesn't mean nothing meaningful can happen in light sleep. It means the meaningful is given a chance. The step you cared about is no longer wrestling in a crowded room. The name you needed isn't shouting over music. The thought you'll use isn't trying to hop a fence. The gate is open and the grass is short. We'll keep the promises we made. Define before naming, image before label, calm line after both. You've met the sweep by job and by feel. If a proper name shows up later, it will arrive like a nickname you already know. A last small cluster to carry forward. Protection, tagged pieces get space. Reduction, background noise steps back. Preparation, patterns receive their first gentle polish. Let's pause. One more easy breath. If you nodded off and returned mid-sentence, you missed nothing essential. The sweep keeps working whether you listen or dream. Smoothing is lovely, but smoothing alone doesn't place things on the right shelves. Streets can be perfect and still empty. The city will need deliveries. The house will need the keys on the hook and the mail at the door. That is the next phase, when the glue and the postmans start their rounds. The sweep is their friend. It hands them clean streets and clear lanes. So the short version is, the sweep sets the stage so the real handoff can happen without tripping. Light sleep isn't the storage room. It's the prep station. Think of it as the pre-rinse before dishes go into the washer, the tidy you do before guests arrive, the way a porch light flips on so the delivery knows which door is yours. Nothing grand, nothing loud, just small kindnesses that make the next steps effortless. One kindness is spacing the traffic. The sweep doesn't let 10 messages pile into the same intersection. It introduces gaps, room for a turn, room for a breath, room for a thought to pass without scuffing its shoes. You feel that as calm. Not an empty mind, but a mind with aisles wide enough for you to walk without bumping display stands. Another kindness is soft gating. The city still has doorbells, but the sweep adjusts the volume. A doorbell meant for morning rings in the next room, not in your skull. A clatter becomes cotton. The thought that would normally tug your sleeve waits until the mat is dry and the hallway is clear. You didn't make it wait. The sweep ran the rope along its post and tied a friendly knot. A third kindness, boundary marking. During the day, ideas borrow each other's coats and wander into the wrong meetings. The sweep ushers them back to their own rooms, not sternly, just firmly. You two can talk later, it says to a plan and a worry. For now, you here, you there. Suddenly tomorrow's map stops bleeding through the page you're on. Let's pause. Inhale as if you're smelling something warm from another room. Exhale like you're blowing on a spoon before tasting. No counting, just comfort. If you wake lightly during this phase, you'll notice short hallways. The thing you should fix now sits at the end of a corridor with the lights turned low and a sign that reads, "Open at 9." You can walk there if you want, but the carpet is so soft you rarely do. The bed agrees. The pillow votes for patience. There's that tiny startle too, the almost step off a curb as you're drifting. Your body does a quick safety check, like a night guard trying the handle of a door it knows is already locked. The sweep nods. All is well, and you sink again. No story, no chase, just a small, polite test of the hinges. Humor can lean against the counter here. The sweep keeps a private scoreboard against the part of you that hides things somewhere safe. The sweep prefers somewhere obvious. It would label your secret stash spot, Museum of Lost Chargers, and route every cable to the drawer that actually opens without sticking. If the sweep ran your home, the keys would admit defeat and live on the hook forever. 3 anchors to keep your footing. Spacing. Messages get room to breathe. Gating. Late-night doorbells ring softer and farther away. Boundaries. Plans and worries keep to their own rooms. So the short version is, calm isn't empty. It's well arranged. Light sleep also presses pause on rehearsals that don't help. The imaginary argument you keep winning, it fades to mime, gestures without lines, feeling without fresh bruises. The sweep isn't censoring you. It's declining to subsidize a theater that never closes. The stagehands go home. The lights dim. Tomorrow's conversation, the real one, will be easier without last night's dress rehearsal chewing through props. You'll notice less elbowing from old loops. The list that tried to multiply on your nightstand stops breeding. The cupboard of shoulds shuts with that satisfying hush good hinges make. The world didn't get smaller, the corridors got clearer. Even your breath tucks its shirt in out, like a train that knows every stop and never needs to slam the brakes. Let's pause. If it helps, match the out breath to a slow count of 3 in your head, then drop the counting and keep the pace, or ignore the numbers entirely and simply lengthen the exhale by a heartbeat. Either way, you're doing it right. Here are 3 common tells that the sweep is on duty. Sound softens at the edges. The same noises visit from farther away, as if they've learned to knock first. Thoughts stop braiding themselves together. One ribbon at a time. No tangles. Time stretches. Minutes feel wider, not longer. Space appears between events. A friendly domestic picture. Late in the evening, the dishwasher hum begins. Not the loud churning, just the initial rush that wets every plate so food won't set like cement. That's light sleep to a memory. It keeps the day from hardening in the wrong shape. When the heavier cycles arrive later, they'll have less to fight. Or an airfield at night. Runway lights mark a path, and little brooms sweep the line where tire meets ground. Planes are not landing yet. The work is simply making sure the first wheels to touch won't skitter. Tomorrow's ideas are those wheels. The sweep keeps your runway dry. So the short version is, later phases are powerful because this one is polite. Polite doesn't mean passive. The sweep is decisive in tiny, humane ways. It will let a useful messenger through and let a noisy parade pass without a drumline. It makes choices you would approve if you were awake enough to vote. And that's the point. You don't have to vote. It's midnight. You're off duty. The crew's judgment is good. If you've ever woken to find that urgency has expired on something that felt dramatic at 10 p.m., think the sweep. It stamped a quiet date on the envelope and slid it into a tray labeled, "Tomorrow if needed." Morning, you will often look at it and realize it belonged in "Never mind." That's efficiency without the scolding. A clear desk, not a lecture. Let's pause, unclench the jaw, let the tongue rest like a leaf on water. Shoulders drop a notch. If you forgot what we were talking about for a second, perfect. That's the sweep too. Light sleep, for all its gentleness, doesn't promise permanence. It won't turn chalk to stone. It won't move the coat from the lobby to the closet. It readies the walkway, lowers the noise, and gives fragile things a first polish. In a way, it's the kindness that keeps tonight's inbox from spilling when the real filing begins. This is where the handoff matters. The streets are clean, the porch light is on, the packages are stacked by destination. What turns this staging into true keeping is the next shift, the glue that sets, the postman who knows every address by heart, the rounds that move cargo from the today box to the long-term shelves. Before we cross that bridge, one more 3-line pocket summary. Protect, guard the fragile from elbows. Quiet, turn down radios so kettles can be heard. Prepare, lay out paths for the night's deliveries. So the short version is, light sleep tidies the streets so precious cargo can travel safely. Smoothing is lovely, but polished doesn't mean permanent. How does tonight's inbox become tomorrow's bookshelf? Who carries the parcels up the stairs, and what helps them set so they don't slide? That's the next round, the glue and the postman. After the streets are swept and the night grows steady, the delivery shift begins. Sleep doesn't turn your mind off. It opens the mailroom. The Today box, that busy hub by the door that caught everything, sits full but calm. Across the hall, the long-term shelves wait like quiet homes with lights on. The crew knows the route. No alarms, there's no hurry, just steady rounds. Define before naming. Meet the job first. Collect, sort, deliver, set. Daylight dumped notes, its scenes, and tiny motions into the Today box. Useful, messy, all mixed together. Night is when those pieces either find an address or step aside. Not because you pushed, but because the system prefers order over piles. The delivery shift is a kindness you didn't have to request. Picture the mailroom rhythm, tagged items, the things you'll use, the things that moved you, the things you touched twice. Sit near the front with little deliver me slips. Untagged bits wait politely. The carrier lifts a stack, checks the slips, and starts the walk. The route is familiar. Memory neighborhoods you visit often, streets that remember your feet, doors that open with a gentle click because they've been opened before. Here's the feel of it in simple terms. What mattered today is given somewhere to live. A poem line moves from a sticky note under your thumb into a slim book on your inner shelf. A recipe tweak leaves the counter and joins the page where your hands already know the first steps. A name you'll need tomorrow leaves the lobby and hangs on a hook by the front door. Not because you crammed, but because the postman put it where you'll reach. Another image helps. Bread dough. During the day, you mix. Ingredients meet, air enters. The shape is soft. During deep sleep, structure sets. Bubbles arrange into something sturdy enough to slice. You didn't knead all night, you rested. The dough did its quiet work, and the loaf will hold when you lift it. That's what delivery plus setting feels like inside your head. So the short version is, deep sleep moves pieces from for now to for later, then lets them hold. The Today box is perfect for catching life as it happens, but it is a terrible long-term filing cabinet. If everything stayed, you'd begin tomorrow with a spill. The mail run prevents that. Each round frees the hub for the next day's deliveries. It's like resetting an inbox to 0 at dawn, not because the world went quiet, but because last night cleared the desk. You wake with space. Let's pause. A soft breath in and a longer breath out. You do not need to carry the stacks. They're already on the cart. The delivery shift helps two kinds of keeping without asking you to separate them. First, facts and stories, words, dates, roots, lines that mean something. These need clear labels and good shelves so you can reach them without rummaging. Second, skills and patterns, bike balance, piano fingering, the right wrist angle for the jar that normally wins. These need time to set, like the loaf, so they don't sag when you pick them up in the morning. Facts are like letters with addresses. Skills are like packages that need to be handled upright. The carrier knows the difference by feel. A poem line gets stood upright next to other lines you love. A cord gets tucked where your fingers will look without thinking. Neither task is flashy. Both tasks make mornings kinder. Domestic humor can live here without waking anyone. Your brain is better at labeling boxes than most moving days. There is no carton labeled miscellaneous. Probably kitchen, maybe bathroom, who knows? The delivery shift does not tolerate miscellaneous. It writes what belongs on the side in big, clear letters and walks the box to the right room. The result is that future you can find the colander without opening 12 boxes and meeting 3 extension cords you haven't seen since the last eclipse. Another kindness of deep sleep, error-proofing. If a detail is still a little wobbly, the glue of night helps it hold. Not super glue, more like a gentle set that keeps pieces from sliding when you're not looking. An address that was smudged becomes legible. A sequence that kept swapping steps becomes a straight line. You didn't do drills. You allowed the set. So the short version is, deep sleep is glue with good manners, firm enough to hold, gentle enough to fit. The mail run isn't only about keeping. It's also about letting go without guilt. Some items leave the hub and never reach a shelf. They get routed to the outgoing bin marked served its purpose. That single-use parking code, the headline you don't need, the spare angle you tried and won't repeat. Out they go. Space is a gift. The postman knows it. You're not losing. You're clearing paths. If you wake for a moment during this shift, you may notice a feeling you can't name. Rooms clicking into place. A subtle yes that wasn't there earlier. The internal version of drawers that finally closed all the way because someone fixed the runner while you slept. It's small. It's real. It's the sound of filed, not piled. Let's pause. Inhale like you're smelling bread from another room. Exhale like steam leaving a kettle that never shouts. Deliveries happen in passes, not in one heroic loop. The carrier makes a round, light sleep smooths the streets again, and another round begins. Each pass reduces the hub's stack and increases the shelf's calm. You don't measure this. You feel it as a morning with fewer rummages. The thing you need is where your hand goes first. The day feels pre-sorted. Notice how this shift respects priorities you set without speeches. Your tiny uses and feelings from daytime become pointers. The mail follows them. That's why a step you rehearse 3 times gets a front porch, while a stray fact with no story bows out. It's why a promise to yourself sticks, and a wish you never touched floats away without drama. Not because you are weak-willed, but because the route serves the future you actually meet. So the short version is, deep sleep frees the today box and furnishes the rooms you'll live in tomorrow. Imagine 2 short lists, one for facts, one for skills. On the facts list, last night's poem line, the name you'll use, the small fix to the sauce. On the skills list, the left-hand pattern, the steadier bike turn, the way you angle the knife to spare the tomato. None of these needed a lecture. They needed addresses and time to set. That is what they got. The delivery shift is thorough but not dramatic. No banners, no completed 100% badge flashing at the top of your vision. Just the quiet competence of parcels arriving where they belong. If you've ever woken with the sense that a cupboard inside you was restocked in the right order, you've met this round. Pull a mug, and it comes without clatter. We'll walk deeper in the next part, closer to the feel of fact delivery versus skill delivery, and how the glue chooses fit over force. For now, keep one pocket line. So the short version is deep sleep is the mail run and the setting time, turning I hope I remember into I can reach it, and I hope it holds into it does. Let's walk the route a little closer, first with facts and stories. Think of a short stack on the cart, last night's poem line, the name you'll use tomorrow, the small correction to a recipe, the date that matters next week. In the today box, these sit side by side like envelopes tossed into the same tray. During the delivery shift, each envelope gets its address checked. Where will this be easiest to find when asked is the only question that matters. The poem line moves near other lines you've loved. The name travels toward the entryway where faces already hang. The recipe tweak walks to the page where your hands already know steps 1 and 2, so step 3 will not feel like a stranger. So the short version is, facts stop being a pile and start being a map. Now for skills and patterns, these aren't letters. They are packages that say this side up, a new wrist angle, a smoother chord change, a steadier turn on the bike. Each needs quiet to set so it won't slide when you pick it up. Deep sleep is that setting time. Like bread dough left to rest, the bubbles settle into a structure that holds. You didn't micromanage it. You simply gave it time not to be jostled. Morning opens the box, and the shape doesn't slump. There's a friendly difference between knowing the idea and carrying the motion. Knowing the idea can be stored on a shelf. Carrying the motion needs to be tucked into muscles, timing, and a calm sense of, I've got this. Deep sleep does both without asking you to pick which one matters more. It delivers the letter and secures the package. Let's pause. Inhale as if you were smelling toast from the next room. Exhale like steam that doesn't need to hiss. No effort required. Delivery also means labeling that fits the way you look. Daytime often labels too generally. That music thing, that kitchen trick, that person from the hallway. The night run rewrites labels to match your reach. Left-hand pattern for the final line. Turn heat down after the first simmer. Maya, with the green scarf. Not because fancy labels are better, but because specific beats clever when your hand goes searching at 9 a.m. Deep sleep has a reputation for being heavy, but the work is delicate. It notices when 2 envelopes look the same and stamps a small difference so you won't mix them tomorrow. It notices when 2 steps keep swapping and quietly sets a 1 then 2 rhythm so your body won't argue about it in the morning. You don't wake with a certificate. You wake with fewer mix-ups. So the short version is, deep sleep reduces confusion by making similar things easier to tell apart. This is also when the system performs housekeeping with mercy. The Today box is not punished for being full, it is relieved. Stacks shrink, surfaces clear, tomorrow's stuff has somewhere to land. If you've ever woken with the sense that your inner desk has been wiped with a soft cloth, that wasn't a dream about productivity. That was the mail run finishing a pass. Humor can perch on the card here. Moving days in real life often end with a box labeled miscellaneous, definitely important, which later turns out to contain 5 pens, a spoon, and a single battery of uncertain age. The delivery shift dislikes the word miscellaneous. It writes legible labels and walks the box to the right room. Future. You will not open a carton of surprises when all you wanted was the colander. Let's trace a small, ordinary chain so you can feel the before and after. You practice a sentence for tomorrow's meeting. In the day, the sentence keeps catching on one clause. You repeat it twice, and it lands better once, worse the second time. Into the Today box it goes, uneven, hopeful. During deep sleep, the sentence is delivered to the shelf where your voice already keeps its steady pieces. The glue says, hold like this. Morning arrives, and you speak it with the calm of a thought that knows its own order. No extra swagger, just no more snag. Or this one, you adjusted a sauce, less heat, more patience. You managed it by watching closely, but it felt like juggling. Night delivers the tweak to the page where your hands store cooking rhythms. The glue says, simmer first, then turn. The next time you cook, your hands find the knob without a meeting about it. So the short version is, what was effort yesterday becomes reach today. Deep sleep also performs error forgiveness. If an envelope's address was smudged, the system cross-checks it with the streets you actually walk. It asks, where did you try to put this when you needed it? And writes that on the label. If a package's this side up arrow was drawn wrong, the system flips it and lets it set correctly. You don't receive a memo, you receive fewer little frictions. Consider names. A name is an envelope that travels best with a story stamp. Maya, green scarf. We laughed about the elevator music. The delivery shift adds that stamp if you gave it even a hint to work with. If all you had was Maya, the envelope might reach the right street, but the door will be slower to find. Give the system a detail, and it paints the door red. Let's pause. Breathe in like you're nodding. Breathe out like agreement. The work continues whether you pay attention or nap inside the sentence. Another quiet task of deep sleep is neighborhood building. Delivered items don't live alone. They join blocks. The poem line moves near other lines that carried the same feeling, so when you reach for one, your fingers accidentally brush 2 or 3 helpful neighbors. The cord joins the block where related shapes live, so your hand can walk from one porch to the next without getting lost. This isn't creativity yet, that's later. This is sensible city planning. Delivery also respects distance. Some items need to live far apart to prevent mix-ups. 2 procedures you keep flipping get their own streets. The glue doesn't try to make you a genius who never hesitates. It aims for a tidy town where left is left, right is right, and you can trust your own map under common light. So the short version is deep sleep groups what belongs together and separates what trips you up. The handoff frees more than space. It frees attention. During the day, you spend energy refinding things. After delivery, you spend that energy using things. The difference is small in a single action and enormous across a week. It's the difference between searching every drawer for tape and opening the one you labeled tape without thinking. Tidy saves fuel. A brief thought on practice. You don't need to practice perfectly to benefit from the mail run. You need to practice honestly. Touch the thing a couple of times, even if it's clumsy. That gives the carrier a slip to follow. A clumsy slip is still a slip. Night reads it, delivers the package, and lets the glue set what your daylight hands began. Let's pause. Shoulders soften, jaw rests, breath lengthens on the way out. You're carried, so you're not carrying. You might feel a click in the morning with no fanfare. The bike turns a shade smoother. The sentence steps off the curb without tripping. The jar opens with less theater. That click is the final act of a quiet round. Swept streets, mail delivered, glue set. You earned it by living your day and then letting night do its job. We're close to the handoff that invites arranging and softening, the shift where links are tested and edges rounded. After the mail run, the editor rolls the chair to the desk. Scenes meet, feelings find kinder lighting, and you wake with thinking that flows better than it did. We'll sit with that in the next part. For now, keep one pocket line. So the short version is, deep sleep is the glue and the mail run, moving what matters to where you'll find it, letting it hold, and clearing the hub for a new day. There's a quiet test the delivery shift runs on nearly everything. Can you find it without searching? If yes, it belongs on a reachable shelf. If no, it needs a clearer label, a closer neighbor, or a different room. Deep sleep makes those changes without asking you to hold a meeting about them. The result is the morning feeling of putting out your hand and touching the right thing on the first try. Another quiet test is consistency. Daylight sometimes teaches you two versions of the same step. Your hands alternate and argue. Overnight, the glue chooses one and commits. Not because the other version was wicked, but because wobble wastes energy. Tomorrow's you needs one path that holds under ordinary weather. Deep sleep votes for the path your day used most honestly, the one that matched your purpose or felt a shade kinder in your body. Let's pause, in softly, out a little longer, nothing to memorize. The shelves are labeling themselves. Delivery also does conflict prevention. Similar names drift apart just enough that you won't mix them when you're tired. Two recipes that begin the same stop, tripping each other at step 3. A cord that kept pretending to be its neighbor is nudged to its own front porch. You won't notice any of this as fireworks. You'll notice it as fewer small apologies to yourself. The handoff respects timing too. Some things want to be close to waking, like what you'll say at 9 a.m. Others are content to live deeper in the shelves, like a poem line you keep because it makes your day wider. The mail run places items by when you'll reach, not only where. Morning things move near the door. Later things sit deeper, safe and unhurried. A cozy truth. Delivery is forgiving. If a step didn't land cleanly today, you're not penalized. The glue doesn't grade. It sets what you gave it. Tomorrow you'll get another chance to practice, and tonight we'll set that round too. Layer by layer, the shelf grows steady. You were allowed to be clumsy. The system turned clumsy into nearly and nearly into there. Humor can stroll through quietly. If your life were a moving day, deep sleep is the friend who refuses to label a box miscellaneous. It writes, winter scarves, hallway shelf, top left, and then, here's the kindness, actually puts it top left. Future. You walk straight to it without opening the box titled Surprises that always contains batteries of unknown age and 3 pens that don't write. So the short version is deep. Sleep trades rummaging for reaching. Delivery also practices compression without loss. A cluster of scattered notes becomes a single clean card you can carry. A messy series of micro steps becomes one smooth gesture. You didn't lose detail, you lost friction. This is why a practiced sentence feels shorter in your mouth, even when the words are the same length on the page. Consider error forgiveness again in a different light. A number you kept placing one notch off gets a tiny bump onto its true hook. A name you clipped too sharply gains its missing syllable. The postman prefers close and correct to fast and wrong. Morning feels merciful because the system was merciful with your human attempts. Let's pause. Shoulders down, jaw easy. tongue resting light. The cart keeps moving without you. If you like whispered names after jobs, you can hold this one softly. The Today box many people call the hippocampus. The long-term shelves most call the cortex. You met their work first. The labels are just small tags for later curiosity. If you forget them immediately, you've lost nothing. The shelves still hold. There is a rhythm to the night. Sweep, deliver, set, then again. The passes interleave. Light sleep creates lanes. Deep sleep runs the mail and sets the glue. Light sleep returns to hush the streets for the next round. Each loop reduces the hub's pile and increases the room's calm. You can wake briefly in the middle of it, roll, and rejoin the route without issuing a single instruction. You are the citizen. The crews are the city. Sometimes delivery promotes a peace. A fragile note becomes a landmark. The cord you kept missing turns into a streetlight. Your hand can see from blocks away. The name you feared losing becomes a sign at the corner of recognition. Promotion isn't pride, it's utility. What you'll actually need gets a light that stays on. Sometimes it archives with honor. A detail that mattered once, and may again, moves to a quiet drawer labeled well enough that you could find it with a minute's patience. Not gone, not on the front hook either. This is how a mind stays spacious. A few hooks near the door, many drawers that open easily, and no secret trapdoors to somewhere safe. So the short version is, deep sleep balances the front porch with the good drawer. Delivery has feelings about energy. Searching is expensive. Using is cheaper. The more pieces the mail run puts where your hand expects, the more of tomorrow's fuel stays in the tank for what only you can do. Thinking kindly, building, choosing, noticing. That is a profound gift disguised as, that was easier. A little chain you may recognize. Yesterday. Where did that step go? Overnight. Delivered, set, labeled to match your reach. Today. Oh, there. Another. Yesterday. What's their name? Overnight. Tag reinforced by a tiny story. Today. Maya. Arriving with the green scarf and the smile, you remember? Let's pause. Breathe like agreement. No need to be impressed. This is ordinary brilliance. All this careful placing also prepares the final night shift. Once parcels sit on the right shelves and the glue has set, the editor can roll in and try gentle links without knocking stacks over. If arranging happened first, it would be chaos. Because delivery went ahead, arranging becomes play. That's why creative leaps and softer feelings often greet you near morning instead of midnight. The stage was set. Now the scenes can dance. Before we hand the keys to that shift, a last handful of pocket lines from hub to home. Today's pile becomes tomorrow's places. From soft to sturdy, motions and ideas set enough to hold. From search to reach, less rummaging, more doing. And one more breath, simple as closing a drawer. In, out, no hurry. So the short version is, deep sleep is the glue and the mail run, making memories sturdy and freeing space for a new day. Next up is the gentle rearranger, the late-night dream editor who crossfades scenes, links cousins, and rounds sharp edges, so thinking and feeling travel more easily at dawn. Lights turn a little golden now, not bright, not dark, just the color of a lamp you don't have to squint at. The night crew has swept the streets, the mail has been delivered, and a chair rolls toward a desk. The dream editor takes a seat. The editor doesn't clock in with a clipboard. It starts by laying out clips, moments from today, little pieces from last week, a scene from years ago that still knows your name, breakfast laughter, a line from a book, the way your hands remembered a shape for half a second and then forgot. These clips are not in order. They are just near one another, like photos spread across a table. The editor's job is simple. Try joins. A crossfade here, a soft cut there, a test to see whether one scene hands itself to the next without snagging. This is where odd cameos make sense. Your childhood teacher walks into the kitchen at midnight and hands you a grocery list written on a napkin. Your sink hosts a tiny opera with too many divas and exactly the right number of spoons. The point is not accuracy, it's association. The editor asks, if these two things sit side by side, does tomorrow flow better? Sometimes the answer is yes, and a small bridge is built. Sometimes the answer is interesting but no, and the clip returns to its earlier neighbors. Let's pause, breathe in softly, and let that exhale be longer, like a curtain drifting down. No effort, just the room settling. The editor has a kind hand with emotion. Yesterday's sharp spikes become rounded hills, not because the event is erased, but because the lighting changes. That glare you couldn't look into becomes a glow you can walk by. You might remember the conversation, but you no longer feel ambushed by it. You can approach instead of flinch. The edit isn't pretending. It's adjusting the frame so the story can breathe. Dream logic is strange, but it's a friendly strange. Think of it as the well-meaning cat that rearranges your pencils. Helpful, debatable, charming, absolutely. The cat is not doing your homework, but it might nudge two similar pencils together so you stop hunting for matching shades. The dream editor's version of that is to place two ideas close enough that in the morning your mind says, oh, those go together, and saves itself a search. You've felt its gifts. The inventor who sleeps on a puzzle and wakes with a path didn't grow a new part overnight. The editor simply tried a cut that daytime didn't have time to audition. The student who couldn't explain a poem finds a metaphor at dawn because the editor tested three and chose the one that walked. The cook who kept breaking a sauce knows suddenly what to do. A smaller pan, a slower pour, or nothing at all. Wait. That knowledge often feels like a tiny mercy dropped in your pocket before you left the house. So the short version is, the dream editor tries links until a few hold, and your morning moves easier. Sometimes the editor's noisy while doing helpful work. A dream runs hot, a chase, a test you didn't study for, a performance where everyone expects you to juggle a flaming watermelon while naming the planets in order. If that wakes you, you didn't fail sleep. You brushed against an active cut. It's okay to breathe, turn, and return. The editor keeps the project open. Most edits improve on the second pass. You know this from life. Your brain knows it at night. Here's a friendly way to picture the editor at its desk. There's a small bin labeled Try and an equally small bin labeled Keep. From the pile, a clip goes into Try, meets another clip, and they walk together for a few steps. If they steady each other, they move to Keep. If they wobble, no harm. Back they go to their neighborhoods. The desk is tidy. No one shouts. The work accumulates in tiny, durable ways. Let's pause. See if your jaw can drop a millimeter, tongue resting like a leaf on water. You don't have to hold the thread. It loops back by itself. One gift of this shift is blending feeling with meaning. In the day, those can drift apart, facts with no heart, feelings with no handle. The editor coaxes them into the same frame. The poem line that moved you is paired with a use, a way to say it to a friend when they need a steadying line. The step you practiced is paired with a modest pride that says, yes, this is mine now. The result isn't a new fact or a new feeling. It's a friendlier fit between the two. We can give the editor credit for brave silliness too. It will cast your grocery list opposite your third grade teacher because they share a rhythm your head can remember. It will let your kitchen sink host a miniature opera because drama helps the glue harden on details that otherwise slip away. You wake laughing at the oddity, and tucked inside the laugh is a path you didn't have last night. So the short version is, dreams look strange because the editor values flow over literalness. If you ever worry that your dreams are too odd to matter, consider the mornings when a previously knotted thought loosens. Something happened between clips. The editor found a cut that plays. You don't have to remember the movie to benefit from the edit. Before we step further into the craft, how the editor chooses which clips to try, how it softens sharp edges without sanding truth, one more breath break. Inhale as if you're smelling warm bread. Exhale like steam. You're not in a hurry to watch disappear. We'll keep the rhythm, question, image, calm line. Here's the question that guides this shift. What sits better together than apart? The editor answers with pictures, not speeches. A moment from third period and a piece of last night's kitchen work share a cadence. Together they become a path you can walk at 10 a.m. That's the kind of sense the editor prefers, the kind that saves you steps without making you sprint. So the short version is, dream-rich sleep weaves new threads so ideas and feelings sit together more kindly. The editor keeps a simple rule on the desk. Start where the tags shine. Clips that mattered, repeated or carried feeling sit near the top of the pile. A quick laugh at lunch. The line you practiced 3 times. The look on someone's face that you're still thinking about. These go first, not because the editor plays favorites, but because well-tagged clips pull neighbors into order. Here's how it feels from inside your morning. A name doesn't arrive alone. It brings the context that makes it stick. The green scarf, the elevator music you joked about. A step doesn't show up naked. It arrives with the small pride that steadies your hands. The editor didn't invent these companions. It paired them. Let's pause. Breathe in the size of a nod. Breathe out like agreement. No need to hold anything tight. The editor loves rough cuts. It will replay a piece of the day with one corner changed, then again with a different corner changed, as if it's tilting a picture frame to find the angle that stops it squeaking against the wall. Daytime often leaves frames a little crooked. Night is patient with the tilt. Sometimes the cut it tries is bold. It will place yesterday's worry beside last year's win and ask, do these belong in the same scene? The surprise answer might be yes. Your new worry is just an old pattern in a different hat. Or no, the two don't share a room, and they feel calmer when separated. Either way, you wake with a cleaner boundary and less mystery about why a small thing felt big. Dream logic, of course, gets whimsical. Your hallway is suddenly the train station from a city you visited once. Your boss speaks in your cousin's voice. A toaster becomes a small sun that toasts only the crusts because it believes in boundaries. This isn't nonsense for its own sake. It's the editor testing what can swap and what must stay put. If 2 pieces trade costumes and the scene still works, your mind learns the gist that matters, not the clutter that doesn't. So the short version is, the editor uses strangeness to find the sturdiness under details. Another gift, emotion with edges sanded, not erased. The editor won't pretend a sharp thing never happened. It will change the lighting so the edges stop cutting you. Think of yesterday's conversation appearing again with the camera pulled back. More sky, more space, a softer sound. You wake capable of looking again without flinching. That's not forgetfulness. That's approachability. Let's pause. A long exhale, like fog leaving a window. Shoulders drop a millimeter. The editor also makes paths for creativity that daytime crowds can't. In the day, you defend your work from interruption. At night, interruptions become ingredients. The half idea from the shower meets the memory of a project from last spring, and a taste of cinnamon from tonight's kitchen, and a new path appears. Oh, that's how to explain it. Or, try the smaller pan. It feels like a gift, because it arrives without the push you associate with solving. Friendly humor belongs here. Dream logic is that well-meaning cat, rearranging your pencils by height, then color, then secret favorite. Helpful? Debatable. But in the morning, you find the pencil you need faster because some arrangement happened while you weren't supervising. The editor respects limits. It won't hold a scene too long if the join doesn't help. That's why you can wake from a dream mid-edit and still return to sleep. The system is perfectly happy to try again with a different cut. If the dream ran hot, chase, test, performance, you can simply breathe, shift, and re-enter. Waking once doesn't cancel the project. Think of it as the editor saving the file and reopening it with calmer music. So the short version is, drafts are welcome. The final cut can wait. You may notice dreams borrow props from the lost and found. A sock becomes a puppet. A bus ticket becomes a key. Your kitchen timer becomes a polite heartbeat, counting down to an answer that arrives one breath before you wake. Props are cheap. Associations are the point. If a prop helps two ideas touch, it stays for that scene and bows out later. There's a subtle repair the editor attempts when memory feels too sharp or too loud. It pairs the facts with safer frames. The walk home that made you jumpy might replay at noon with friends instead of midnight alone. Your body remembers the safer tempo. The tough meeting might replay with a supportive voice in the doorway, so your tomorrow carries backup you didn't feel you had. You still recall the real version, you just also carry a gentler template. Let's pause. Inhale like you're opening a window. Exhale like curtains settling. No rush. The editor is fond of rhythm. It will stick a rhythm to an idea that kept slipping, syllables to a name, a beat to a step, a pacing to a paragraph, because rhythm is a handle. Handles survive when details slosh. That's why you wake with a sentence that finally falls out of your mouth in one clean pour, or a technique that ticks at the right moments. Another quiet method, mosaics. It breaks one big, hairy problem into tiles and arranges the border first. Daytime stares at the whole impossible picture. Night makes the edges make sense. The morning sensation, I don't have the answer, but I know where to start, comes from a border built in the dark. So the short version is, REM builds handles and borders, so the middle becomes doable. If numbers ever worried you at night, the editor helps by abstracting. It lets you hold the shape of a problem without the glare of all its digits. Suddenly the structure is visible. You can choose the next step without seeing every step. That's kindness disguised as cleverness. We should also speak to stress dreams with compassion. They're not punishments, they're busy edits. They can be loud while doing something useful, cutting, reordering, pairing a spike with steadier music. If one wakes you, it may be because a cut looked wrong up close. Back away with a breath or two. Let the editor try again. It will. You are not behind. Let's pause. Touch the jaw with your attention and let it soften. Let your tongue rest. If your mind drifted and returned right now, perfect. This is editing, not a test. The editor loves callbacks. It invites an old scene because it rhymes with a new one. That's why you dream of a classroom when you're learning a fresh skill. It's a rhyme, not a regression. The rhyme makes tomorrow's lesson easier to hang because your mind already knows where the hooks are. It also practices gentle foreshadowing. You'll need a phrase at noon. It gives you a soft rehearsal at dawn. You'll need to remember a face. It flashes the scarf color as if to say, watch for green. The help is tiny and timely. It feels like luck. It's editing. So the short version is, the editor adds rhymes and foreshadows just enough to save you steps. A final image for this pass, the editor stitching a quilt of clips. Some squares are bright, some muted, some from old shirts you forgot you loved. The stitches are small on purpose. In the morning, you feel warmth more than you see thread. You reach for a line, a step, a choice, and it's all of a piece. We'll turn to one more question in the last part. How does the editor know which links to keep And how do you notice its work by morning if you barely remember your dreams? Hold just this for now. So the short version is dream-rich sleep, tries links, blends feeling with meaning, and leaves you a smoother map to walk when the light returns. How does the editor decide which joins to keep? It listens for ease. When two clips sit together and your breath doesn't snag, they earn a small nod. When a cut removes the effort, when a sentence pours instead of drips, the join moves from try to keep. It's taste, but not fancy taste. More like the way you know a drawer is right when it closes without a squeak. Another quiet rule, nearest good neighbor. A clip that already carries a bright tag, meaning repetition or feeling, will attract a neighbor that reduces friction. The name picks up a scarf color. The step picks up a beat. The idea picks up a metaphor that stops it from slipping. The editor doesn't hoard cleverness. It distributes handles so tomorrow's hands don't slip. Let's pause. Inhale the size of a nod. Exhale like agreement. Nothing to hold, just letting joins settle. What if you barely remember your dreams? You can still benefit. Editing isn't a show, it's post-production. The credits can roll without your attendance. In the morning, you don't need the footage. You need the smoother path it left behind. You notice it as, that's easier, or, oh, that makes sense, or, I know where to start. The editor also has a trick for loud scenes, reframing without lying. It keeps the facts, but changes the vantage point. A sharp memory shifts a few steps back and a half step higher. The horizon enters the frame. With more sky, edges stop feeling like cliffs. You wake able to approach the same memory with steadier feet, not because it shrank, but because the picture grew. So the short version is, morning clarity is the residue of edits you don't need to recall. You can invite gentle help without chasing it. Before sleep, give tomorrow one small prompt, like placing an envelope on the editor's desk. Find words for the tough email, or where should I start that essay? Then let it go. The point is not to wrestle, it's to offer a label so the clip enters the try bin with a tiny head start. A friendly joke. The editor accepts payment in pajamas and patience, not in overthinking. If you show up at midnight with a 27-point brief, it will file it under "See me in the morning," then carry on auditioning cuts in peace. Sometimes the editor chooses negative space, what not to connect. Two ideas stay apart on purpose so they don't tangle. You wake with a clean no, and that's as valuable as a yes. A plan falls away without guilt. A path you thought you should take stops pretending to fit. The absence of a join is also an edit. Let's pause. Longer exhale, like fog leaving a mirror. Shoulders ease a notch. There's a quiet kind of evidence you already know. You stop mid-shower, realizing the line you needed has arrived in full, like a bird landing on your wrist. You stir a sauce and feel your hand do what last night's dream suggested without using words. Smaller pan, slower pour. You greet someone and their name walks in with them, wearing the green scarf you now expect. You didn't summon these. The editor left them where you'd step on them kindly. What about those nights when a dream jolts you awake? Think of it as the editor zooming in too far. Up close, any cut looks too sharp. You can breathe, turn, and widen the frame. Often the same scene, replayed with more sky, stops shouting. If it doesn't, that's okay too. The file stays open. Another pass awaits. You are not being graded. You are being guided. So the short version is, even loud dreams can be helpful drafts. The editor loves gentle generalization, the moment when 4 examples become one rule you can carry. Daytime hoards examples. Nighttime hands you a small portable law. Start small, heat later, ask first, wait a breath. These are the quiet banners you notice on your inner streets after dream-rich sleep. They aren't slogans, they're shortcuts to kindness. Let's pause. If counting helps, let the out-breath glide to 3. If not, skip the numbers and keep the glide. Another method, contrast edits. The editor sets 2 clips side by side, what helped, what hurt, and brightens the outline around the better path. You wake with a preference that feels like common sense. It isn't moralizing, it's ergonomics for thinking and feeling. This fits the hand, this doesn't. It also composes transition music. You don't only need answers, you need entries. The editor writes a first note, the easiest way in. That's why a heavy task feels suddenly startable. 1 sentence to write, 1 shelf to clear, 1 call to make. The rest can follow once the doors open. So the short version is, dream edits often gift you a beginning, not the whole map. The editor respects tenderness. It pairs a memory with care so you can hold it without squeezing. A proud moment gets a brief hum so it doesn't glare. A regret gets a soft boundary so it doesn't sprawl. You wake able to place each where it belongs, near, not on you. If you enjoy whispered names after jobs, you can hold this softly. Many people call this editing phase REM. You've met the work already. Linking, softening, testing joins. The label is just a tag for curiosity. Forget it if you like. The work remains gold as lamplight. Let's gather the pieces in a pocket-friendly trio. Links. Ideas that sit better together get stitched. Contours. Feelings keep their truth, but lose their splinters. Beginnings. Small entries appear where walls had been. 1 last breath break, in then out. A little slower than you think you need. If your eyes are heavy, that counts. If you're wide awake, you're still learning. The editor is happy either way. A final tiny story to take with you. You went to bed with a knot, a sentence, a choice, a feeling. In the night, the editor didn't cut the knot with a sword. It turned it, found the loop, and left the end tucked where your fingers would find it. Morning comes. You pull, and the knot is no longer a knot. You didn't win a battle. You untangled a thread you could see at last. So the short version is, dream-rich sleep weaves new threads so ideas and feelings sit together more kindly. Let's hold a few gentle, everyday proofs in our hands. Nothing heavy, just small stories that many people recognize without needing charts or scores. Think of them as baby photos of a bigger idea. Sleep quietly helps more than it asks. First proof, the evening piano. You sit with a simple pattern. Left hand, right hand, a little seesaw that keeps bumping the same corner. It's not a disaster, just clumsy, like butter on the wrong side of the knife. You try it 3 times. Once it works, twice it doesn't. The notes feel like they're wearing mittens. You stop because stopping is allowed. You close the lid. You call that enough for tonight. Morning arrives with its softer light. You lift the lid and place your fingers where they were yesterday. The pattern doesn't feel new. It feels near. Your hands move with less wobble. The seesaw finds a slow, even swing. You didn't unlock a secret. You gave your mind a night to deliver the mail and set the glue. The result is small and honest. Less wrestling, more flow. You don't think, I got smarter in the dark. You think, oh, there you are. That's the proof. The effort you invested yesterday is easier to reach today. So the short version is, practice plants the seed. Sleep helps it take root. Second proof, words in a new language. You try a handful at dusk. You mouth them once, twice, maybe whisper them while washing a cup. They feel like marbles, smooth but slippery. You hear yourself hesitate. The sounds arrive in the wrong order and ask to trade seats. You leave them be. You go do something else. You don't quiz yourself into a knot. You let night have its turn. In the morning, those same words feel less sticky. Not perfect, less sticky. The vowels scoot into place. The consonants stop elbowing each other. You can say a little phrase without stopping to assemble it, like furniture on the floor. That's not a miracle. That's the night sweep protecting tagged pieces, and the mail run placing them near useful neighbors. The helpful part isn't that you now know everything. The helpful part is that you know enough to keep going. So the short version is, small repeats plus sleep make new words willing to be yours. Both moments are modest. No trumpets, no wow face in the mirror. Just the sense that your hands and mouth have a better map than they did. If you've ever felt this, you've met the kind of evidence that matters. You didn't push harder. You rested, and the path smoothed. Let's pause. An easy inhale, a longer exhale. Shoulders drop a shade. You're doing fine. Another gentle proof hides in a third place, the puzzle you set down. Maybe it's a sentence you can't phrase cleanly, a schedule with two pieces that refuse to share a Tuesday, or a small design that keeps squeaking when you tilt it. You stop. You wash a dish. You sleep. You wake to coffee, and with no announcement, a hint arrives. Not the entire solution, just the next foothold. Start here. Try the smaller pan. Move the second step first. It feels like luck. It is luck's cousin. The dream editor tried a new cut while you weren't supervising, and left the good version where you'd step on it kindly. So the short version is, leaving a knot alone can invite a visible loose end by morning. These soft proofs sit on both sides of the same door. On one side, you practice a little, notes, words, a plan. On the other, sleep does a little, sweeps, delivers, edits. The combination is polite and effective. Neither side needs drama. That's the style of real help. Quiet, local, repeatable. If you want to test it without strain, keep your experiments tiny. Play the pattern 3 times, not 30. Say the phrase out loud twice to the air, then once to a friend tomorrow. Write one sentence that doesn't yet belong to a paragraph. Close the lid. Let the crews do their shift. In the morning, check for that small but solid "oh there" feeling. You're not collecting points. You're noticing a texture. Let's pause. The breath leaves slower than it entered. Good. You might ask, what counts as improvement? The answer is friendly and low stress. Less friction, fewer catches. A step that feels like it weighs a gram less than yesterday. A word that arrives without knocking so loudly. A puzzle that stops sneering and starts cooperating. Improvement can be as quiet as a drawer that finally closes without hip bumping it twice. There's a kind contradiction tucked into these proofs. If memory were a museum that kept everything, you'd wake up with walls crammed edge to edge. But you don't. You wake with a path. The piano pattern stands out. The extra noise recedes. The words you touched return. The ones you never needed bow out. The hint you needed is visible. The crowd of maybes stops shouting. The best memory is not a hoarder. It's a curator. It keeps the useful pieces connected and lets the rest drift kindly to the unclaimed rack. So the short version is, your mind seems to choose clarity over completeness, on purpose. A last pocket image to carry to the next part. Fresh snow at dawn. If every footprint stayed forever, the yard would be chaos. Overnight, the surface smooths. You can see the one clear path from door to gate. The other tracks aren't failures. They've been softened to make the way obvious. That's what these proofs point to. Not because you worked all night, because you didn't have to. We'll gather a few more friendly signs next. Those keys in the fridge, yogurt on the bookshelf days, and how to treat them with mercy. Then the tiny practical shifts that make room for better nights without turning rest into a project. For now, keep only this. So the short version is, many skills and facts polish overnight. Sleep quietly helps more than it asks. On the mornings after short or choppy sleep, life often tilts a little. Names hide behind faces. The word you want waits just out of reach, the way a shy cat pauses in a doorway. Feelings wear louder jackets. You find your keys in the fridge and your yogurt on the bookshelf, and a small part of you thinks, really? It's not failure. It's weather. Nights have it too. So the short version is, when sleep is scattered, attention scatters with it, and that's human. You may notice fog in places that were clear yesterday. The route you drove once feels like a maze again. The sentence that poured last night now drips. Small choices feel bigger than they are, as if every decision asks for a speech. This isn't punishment. It's simply what happens when the night sweep couldn't finish its laps and the mail run had to cut a route short. Some envelopes stayed in the hub. The city still works, just with more detours. Let's pause. An easy inhale and a longer exhale. No fix needed, just air going where it knows. Here's a comforting truth. Your nights won't be perfect, and you don't have to make them perfect. Autonomy matters more than strictness. If the week has bumps, your brain still understands the plan. It adjusts. The crews do what they can with the hours they're given, and they always prefer kindness over pressure. So the short version is, progress doesn't vanish. It simply slows its steps on rough nights. A few gentle signs that sleep was thin. You reread the same line 3 times. A tiny hassle feels like a boss level. Your inner librarian misplaces the bookmark and shrugs. Your feelings may snag more easily. Nothing dramatic, just more napkins catching on your ring. If this is your morning, you are not broken. You are between laps. A friendly pattern helps on days like this. Smaller asks, wider lanes. 1 email, not 5. 1 pan, not 2. Start lines that begin just to the first. The brain loves first steps when the map looks foggy. They invite the mail run to catch up tonight. Let's pause. Breathe out a heartbeat longer than you breathed in. Shoulders loosen a notch. Good. If you want tiny, kind shifts that make room for better nights, without turning rest into a project, pick one or none. Dim the evening by a click or 2. Lamps over overheads. The city at night feeling begins at home. Fewer horns, longer greens. Choose a ritual that's smaller than your willpower. The same mug, the same page, the same line of a song. Predictability is a soft signal to the sweep. Park tomorrow on paper. 1 short list by the bed. Empty the lobby so the crews can close the doors. Consistent-ish timing. Not a rule, an aim. Similar windows most nights help the route memorize itself. A landing strip. Clear a tiny space, literal or mental, where you set the day down. The crews love a tidy curb, so the short version is, nudge, don't wrestle. Small kindness beats big effort at bedtime. None of this is moral. You are not good for sleeping 8 or bad for sleeping 4. You are a person in weather. The permission is to do what's workable and let the system meet you there. If a week runs wild, you can always start again tonight with 1 dimmer lamp and a breath that ends slowly. Evidence can be quiet. Typos reveal themselves in the morning, as if a small proofreader walked through your sentences with a highlighter while you slept. A crossword corner that fought you at 10 p.m. gives up a square with coffee. A gesture, how you hold the jar, the knife, the cord, clicks into place without fanfare. These aren't miracles. They're the leftover warmth of swept streets, delivered mail, and edits that stuck. Let's pause. Jaw soft, tongue resting light, breath leaving like a curtain settling. If you drifted and came back, perfect timing. Low sleep days also show us the flip side by contrast. When the night has been generous, you feel quicker to smile and slower to spark. A pothole in conversation doesn't swallow the entire car. You step around it because the editor rounded the edge, and the mail run put patience on a reachable hook. You didn't become a different person. Your roots were simply clear. So the short version is the same you, with lanes that invite your best driving. A note on learning when the night was short. Practice can still help, but today's aim is planting, not harvesting. Touch the thing once or twice, no grinding, and hand it to the crews tonight. Think seed, not fruit. The harvest belongs to mornings. If your schedule includes late shifts, newborn care, travel, or a brain that loves a midnight second wind, you are not outside the circle. The model bends. You can stack little favors for yourself, a 5-minute wind down even on chaotic nights, a kinder alarm tone, a midday micro nap if that's available, or simply 5 slow breaths with your eyes closed. None of these fix everything. They don't have to. They are votes for the crews, and the crews count every vote. Let's pause. Inhale as if you're smelling warm bread. Exhale like steam that doesn't fuss. Whatever you did today is enough for tonight. Here's another gentle proof you may already know. Morning restraint feels cheaper. The same choice that cost you 5 coins last night costs 2 today. You didn't grow willpower. You recovered sorting. The librarian reshelved the loud paperbacks. The postman moved impatience to a drawer where it fits. The editor added a bar of transition music so you could step into the moment instead of tripping over it. So the short version is, better sleep discounts the price of being yourself. If today was the keys in the fridge kind of day, forgive your inner comedian. Laugh gently, put the keys back on the hook, and eat the yogurt if it seems to be telling you something important about being present. Then choose one small kindness for tonight. The point is not to avoid all future key fridge romances. The point is to keep your map tidy enough that you can find the hook when you need it. A last pair of baby photos. You stop mid-sentence and realize the word you wanted is simply there now, like a friend already waiting in the lobby. You open a document, and the first line arrives with none of last night's stubbornness. It just sits down where it belongs. So the short version is, sleep often returns the thing you were chasing, not because you chased better, but because you stopped. We're almost ready for the gentle reveal these proofs point toward. If the best mornings feel clear rather than crowded, maybe keeping everything isn't the goal. Maybe the mind's kindness is to keep the useful, connected pieces and let the rest soften like footprints under fresh snow. Let's pause, in, then out, a little longer than you think you need. No rush. Next, we'll hold that soft contradiction up to the light. Why forgetting can be part of learning, and how a clear path can be more helpful than a perfect museum. For now, keep only this. So the short version is many skills and facts polish overnight. Sleep quietly helps more than it asks. Let's gather a few more gentle proofs, the kind that feel like nods from your own life. You've likely felt the navigation nudge. You drive somewhere new at dusk. The route feels lumpy. You miss a turn and laugh about it, or don't. You sleep. In the morning, the map inside you is cleaner. Landmarks stand up straighter. A left arrives as, of course now, not maybe here. You didn't study a map overnight. The crews simply cleared the detours and set the signs where your eyes like to look. So the short version is, paths sharpen while you rest. You may have seen the typo fairy at work. Last night, your paragraph seemed fine. Morning gives you fresh eyes, and the misspelled word glows like it learned neon while you slept. You didn't grow a new dictionary. You regained sorting. The editor turned up the contrast on the right layer, and now the mistake waves hello so you can send it home. Let's pause. A small inhale, a longer exhale, like steam leaving a cup. Another soft proof lives in mood edges. On a thin sleep morning, feelings wear spikes. On a generous one, they wear rounded corners. The same comment lands differently. The pothole in conversation doesn't steal the wheel. You still feel things. You just have grip. That's not stoicism. That's what happens when the editor paired feeling with a frame you can hold. So the short version is sleep often trades splinters for handles. There's also the autopilot that becomes yours. Yesterday, the chord change or the knife angle needed a briefing. Today, your hands do it without speeches. You didn't memorize a script, you set one. Deep sleep glued the pieces just enough that your body trusts the path without asking meetings to approve every step. A tiny proof in language, the tip of the tongue visit that decides not to stay. Last night, you knew the word but couldn't catch it. Today, it arrives unannounced and sits in the sentence as if it had a key. Nothing magical happened. The librarian filed it where your mouth looks first. Let's pause. Notice your jaw. Let it drop a millimeter. Tongue resting light. Breath leaving just a heartbeat longer than it came in. Even little naps can preview this effect if they don't steal your night. You close your eyes for a brief coast, and a corner of a problem smooths. Not always. Often enough to count as a hint. Small rests still invite the cruise to do a mini round. So the short version is, tiny rests can polish tiny edges. You've seen the not now tomorrow proof. At 10 p.m., everything looks like a project. At 8 a.m., one thing looks like a first step. Nothing else changed. The transition music arrived. The editor wrote an opening note so you could walk in without tripping. On the flip side, there are days when proof arrives by contrast. Less sleep, more scrambles. The keys in the fridge, yogurt on the bookshelf comedy routine plays itself. You misplace the obvious. You reread the same line. This isn't a character flaw. It's simply what happens when the sweep and the mail run didn't get their full route. Treat it like weather. You carry an umbrella, not a grudge. Let's pause. Inhale as if you're smelling warm bread in another room. Exhale like you have time. If you want to notice these proofs more, often you don't need a logbook. Try a pocket ritual. Touch one small thing in the evening. 3 passes at a pattern. 2 lines of a language. 1 stubborn sentence. In the morning, test only that. Look for less friction, not perfection. If it's steadier by a hair, that's proof. If it isn't, no scolding. You planted a seed. Some seeds sprout after a different kind of night. So the short version is, improvement can be a whisper. Whispers still count. Here's the friendly contradiction that sits underneath all these stories. If good memory meant keeping everything, mornings would feel like crowded basements. But the best mornings feel clear. The piano pattern stands where you can reach. The extra noise has softened. The right words return. The wrong ones stop shouting. The useful pieces find each other. The rest step back without drama. Your mind is not a warehouse. It's a map maker. Think of fresh snow again. If every footprint remained forever, the yard would be unreadable. Overnight, the surface smooths. You wake to a single path from door to gate. The other tracks didn't vanish because they were worthless. They were softened so the way forward could be obvious. That's what these proofs keep pointing to. Not because you worked harder while asleep, but because you didn't have to. Let's pause. 1 easy breath in, 1 longer breath out. Shoulders ease, jaw slackens. Good. A few pocket signs to carry, simple and plain. The thing that felt heavy last night feels 1 notch lighter. The name arrives with its scarf. The first line writes itself. The second follows. The wrong turn you kept taking becomes harder to choose. The same you, with cheaper effort. So the short version is, many skills and facts, polish overnight. Sleep quietly helps more than it asks. We'll use these proofs as a bridge to a kinder idea about memory itself. If clarity beats clutter, then forgetting isn't a leak. It's a feature. Not because your brain is lazy, but because it's helpful. It prunes like a careful gardener, so the best branches catch the light. It smooths like snowfall, so the path stands out. It keeps the map readable. That's where we're headed next, gently naming forgetting as part of learning and resting in the comfort that your brain is on your side. even when it lets a parking spot fade so a poem can stay. For now, you can let this section settle like silt in clear water. You've seen enough proof for one night. So the short version is, many skills and facts polish overnight. Sleep quietly helps more than it asks. Picture a street at dawn after a quiet snowfall. Not a blizzard, just a soft, steady cover. Overnight, the plows have passed. Sidewalks are smooth, driveways are tidy, and one clear path leads from door to gate. You don't see every footprint from yesterday. You see what helps you walk today. That, in gentle words, is how your memory wants to work. It is not a warehouse guarding every box. It is a landscape that's tended. The night crew doesn't hoard, it sculpts. It keeps what helps, links what belongs together, and lets the rest soften into the white so your way forward is obvious. Let's pause. Easy breath in and a little longer out. No gripping, just the picture staying. Forget isn't laziness here. It's housekeeping. Not because your brain failed, but because it made room. When every track stays sharp, you spend all morning choosing between them. When the extra tracks blur, the useful one stands out. Your feet know where to go. Your day thanks you for the clarity. So the short version is, memory is a path, not a pile. Apply it to studying. You read a page and a dozen lines weigh for attention. Overnight, your mind doesn't keep all 12 waving arms. It keeps the line you'll use, the one that ties into a purpose or stirred a feeling, and it places that line where your eyes like to begin. The other lines don't vanish in shame. They simply step back so the keeper can lead. You wake and find yourself quoting the sentence that matters, not because you're a machine, but because the path is clear. Apply it to practicing a craft. Yesterday, you tried 3 wrist angles. The night lets 2 fade and keeps the one that held, not because the others were wrong in a moral sense, but because one fit your hand. Today, your hand returns to that angle with less talk. The snow hid the false turns. You didn't become a different person. You became a person with fewer detours. Apply it to feeling. Yesterday, a moment shone too bright. Overnight, the editor lowered the glare. The fact remains honest and whole, but the edge is rounded. You can approach it without flinching. That's forgetting too, forgetting the sting while keeping the shape. The snow covered the jagged leftovers, so the path to a calmer step could show. Let's pause. Inhale like you're opening a window to cool air. Exhale like curtains settling. Shoulders soften a notch. This sculpting doesn't require perfection from your days. It loves small favors. Use, meaning repetition, and then it does its job. Repeat a name once or twice, and it earns a bright tag. Tie a fact to a purpose, and it gets a hook by the door. Feel a quiet yes while you read, and the line glows. The crews see the glow at night and keep the right path open for morning feet. So the short version is, what matters to you gets a plowed path. You might wonder, but what if I need something the snow softened? The tender answer, you can press a new track at any time, touch it again, give it a reason. Add a little feeling the size of a nod. You're not fighting the system, you're leaving a new set of footprints for tonight's crew to notice. The next dawn can keep that lane clear too. There's kindness in what fades. A parking spot you used once can go. A headline you didn't need can sink. A joke you'll never tell again can wave from the unclaimed rack and drift into compost. Compost isn't loss. It's fuel for the soil that grows the things you do keep. Your brain is saving your attention from carrying every leaf into spring. Think again of that street at dawn. The plow didn't hate the snow. It shaped it so people could walk. Your memory doesn't hate details. It shapes them so you can live. Let's pause. Breath in or breath out. A little slower than before. If you drifted for a moment, that counts as learning too. This is why rest helps the hard parts of learning. Rest is when the garden gets trimmed, the shelves get labeled, the map gets its one thick line. It's why repeating with feeling sticks. The tag shines, the plow sees it, the lane stays open. It's why a kind routine at night is a gift to tomorrow's self. Predictability tells the crews which streets to start with. So the short version is, sleep turns so many options into this way. You don't have to chase this. You can trust it. The system prefers clarity because clarity saves you. It saves you from rummaging through 12 drawers for tape. It saves you from hauling yesterday's entire forest into today's kitchen. It saves you from holding every feeling at full volume when you only need one gentle note to act with care. And if a day is messy, the map forgives you. Nights have weather. Sometimes the plow can't finish every block. You wake to a street that's half clear, and you walk the half that's ready. Tonight can finish the rest. The point isn't perfect grooming. It's the direction you can follow without squinting. Let's pause. Loosen your jaw. Let your tongue rest light. Let your shoulders drop as if the path underfoot were doing the work. We can circle the earlier metaphors here because they all point to the same dawn. Librarians smile as the doors unlock. Books back home, lost and found basket lighter. Street sweepers park. Curbs clean. Lights generous. The editor switches off the desk lamp. Clips stitched into a quilt that actually warms. Different rooms, same mercy. Fewer obstacles between you and the thing you meant to do. So the short version is, memory grows kinder by letting go of clutter and keeping your clearest path. There's a tiny, cozy joke hiding in the snowbank. If your night crew finds that missing sock, please accept delivery in pairs. Even the plows have a sense of humor. They always seem to leave one polite ridge at the end of the driveway, just enough to let you feel useful when you lift a shovel twice. We'll save the soft human suggestions and the goodbye for the next parts. For now, keep only the picture, a dawn street, a single lane, and steps that feel like, of course, now. If the word forgetting still makes your shoulders rise, let them drop. In this story, forgetting means making space. It's the drawer that doesn't jam because you didn't stuff it with everything just in case. It's the shelf with a few clear labels instead of 100 mystery jars. Your brain is not being lazy. It's being tidy on your behalf. So the short version is, letting go is how the path stays visible. Here's how that kindness shows up in real life. You study and feel a line stick. Another line fades. That isn't disrespect to the second line. It's respect for the first. You practice a skill and feel one angle return in your hand while two others vanish. That's not waste. That's the shape of learning. You recall the insight and release the scaffolding you used to reach it. Builders don't live in ladders. They climb them and put them away. Let's pause. Easy breath in and a longer breath out. No performance needed. You're already on the path. Because memory is sculpted, not hoarded. Small favors go a long way. If it feels kind tonight, try one, only one, a landing strip. Choose a tiny place where the day ends. 2 lines in a notebook, a single card, the corner of a counter. Put tomorrow's first small step there. Your crews love obvious parcels. One dimmer click, lower the lights a notch, lamps over overheads. The night sweep hears the cue. Fewer horns, longer greens. Close the loop you keep hearing. Jot the roaming thought. Parking it on paper tells the librarian it has a number. The door can close. Repeat once with feeling. Say the name, then say it again with a smile. Tell the idea to a friend in one sentence. Use is a tag. Feeling is the highlighter. Consistent-ish rhythm. Not perfect, just familiar. Similar windows most nights teach the route to run itself. So the short version is, gentle signals beat grand plans. None of this is a rule book. You're not late if you skip it, and you're not bad if life ignores your dimmer and keeps the lights bright. Nights have weather. Some weeks run like clockwork. Some weeks wear clown shoes. Your crews adjust. They always prefer permission to pressure. A word about the feeling of guilt when something fades. You didn't fail. A quieter success happened. A clearer path appeared because clutter stepped back. That parking spot wasn't meant to vote in today's election. The poem was. The joke you told 3 times stayed because laughter is a strong tag. The untagged details return to compost, and compost feeds what grows next. Let's pause. Jaw soft, tongue resting light, breath leaving like a curtain settling. Good. Remember our earlier rooms? Librarians finish reshelving and smile as the doors open. Street sweepers park, content with a curb that would pass the white glove test, even if no glove ever visits. The editor switches off the desk lamp, clips arranged into a quiet quilt. All 3 leave you the same gift, less rummaging when the day asks for something. It's not that everything survived, it's that the right things are reachable. So the short version is, reachable beats retained. If you want to partner with that design without turning bedtime into a project, keep your favors smaller than your willpower. Same mug, same page. A miniature ritual the size of a tea bag. Predictability is a lullaby for the crews. First step, not the plan. Write the opening line, not the outline. Put the pan on the stove, not the entire dinner on your shoulders. Gentle alarms. Morning music that doesn't yank the curtains. You don't need a trumpet to find the plowed path. One breath with a longer end. The measurement is longer than in, nothing fancier. The body learns that exhale means ease. So the short version is, make it easy to begin, and the night will make it easy to continue. What about feelings you're afraid to lose by softening? Rounding an edge doesn't rewrite history. It adds grip. A memory you can approach is a memory you can use. You still remember the truth. You stop bleeding from it. Forgetting here means forgetting the splinters, keeping the wood. That's not denial. That's care. Let's pause. Inhale as if fresh air met you at the door. Exhale like you trust the hallway. Apply this to study again. When you reread, read less with more attention. Mark one sentence that moved you, then close the book. That's a tag. Your crews notice. Apply it to practice. Touch the move 3 times, smile once, and walk away. That's a tag too. Apply it to feeling. Name it softly. Add one kind sentence to yourself, and let the editor dim the glare. You'll wake with the same truth, easier to hold. A cozy correction for an old myth. You don't have to grip to remember. Tight hands tire quickly. Open hands collect the right pieces and let the rest drop through. Grip is for cliffs. Memory is for roads. Roads want steering more than squeezing. So the short version is, soft holds last longer. If you enjoy labels after jobs, you can tuck this away. The day box many people call hippocampus, the long-term shelves, cortex, the editing lamp, REM. You've already met their work. Names are just souvenirs. Feel free to set them on a shelf you never dust. Your brain doesn't require them. It ran the route before you could spell any of it. Meaning lives here too. A routine is not a test. It's a gift to tomorrow's self. You're placing a coat on a hook you'll reach without thinking. You're choosing which footprint the plow will follow. You're not earning rest. You're inviting it. If you skip a night, the invitation doesn't expire. Put it back on the table when you can. Let's pause. One more slow exhale, a fraction longer than the inhale. Shoulders drop a notch you didn't know they were holding. A few tiny mantras, if they feel friendly. Keep the path, not the pile. Less rummaging, more reach. Soft hands, sturdy keeps. Tags over tugging. Begin small. Sleep will help. So the short version is, memory gets kinder when you help it choose. We can loop our metaphors once more to close the circle. The librarian gives the last nod. Shelves quiet, lost and found lighter. The sweeper parks in a space that somehow is always open for it. The editor caps the pen, satisfied with stitches you won't see but will feel. The street outside is clear in one direction, and your feet know which way to turn without a meeting about it. In a moment, we'll seal the feeling with a cozy goodbye, a laugh about a missing sock, and an invitation to keep each other company again. Before we do, keep the single image that ties it all together. Snow at dawn, one clear path, and steps that feel like, of course, now. So the short version is, memory grows kinder by letting go of clutter and keeping your clearest path. Let's come back to that dawn street one last time. Smooth snow, one open lane, air that feels new but not demanding. You step outside and the path meets your feet. No debate, no rummaging, just forward. That is the promise your mind keeps offering, not a museum of everything, but a way through. It keeps the pieces you'll use, links the ones that belong together, and lets the rest soften so they won't steal your morning. That isn't loss, that's care. So the short version is, the point isn't to hold more, it's to find faster. You can trust this even on uneven weeks, nights have weather. The plow does what it can with the hours it's given. When it leaves a ridge at the driveway, that's not judgment. It's an invitation to take 2 easy shovelfuls and then let the day carry you. Perfection doesn't buy more clarity. Kindness does. Let's pause. An easy breath in and a longer breath out. Shoulders slide down a notch. Good. If you drifted through parts of this, you didn't miss your chance. Drifting is the chance. Your brain learned while you let go of the need to hold. That's the secret built into the design. Open hands gather better. Tight fists tire fast. You know the crew now? The librarians finish their rounds and smile at a catalog that will serve you before coffee. The street sweepers park, pleased with curbs that won't trip your thoughts. The dream editor caps the pen and leaves small bridges you'll cross without noticing you've crossed them. 3 rooms, 1 gift, less friction between you and what matters. So the short version is, fewer obstacles, same you. If tonight you want to place 1 gentle breadcrumb for the crew, pick anything small enough to fit in an open palm. Repeat a name once with a smile. Write a single line you'll add to tomorrow. Dim 1 lamp, park 1 thought on paper. If none of that fits, that's okay. Permission is also a breadcrumb. The crews read that too, meaning ties the bow. You aren't only trying to remember, you're trying to live with ease, to say the thing you mean without stumbling, to feel what's true without splinters, to learn a shape your hands can carry without a pep talk. Memory that's sculpted, kept, linked, softened, lets you do these quietly brave things more often. Let's pause. Inhaling like fresh air meets you at the door, exhaling like you trust the hallway. If an old voice tells you forgetting is failure, you can answer softly, forgetting is making room. You still know what you need to know. The rest stepped back so it wouldn't crowd the door. Roads are not better for having every side street open at once. Roads are better for having the turn you need cleared and kind. Keep a few pocket lines if they feel friendly. Keep the path, not the pile. Less rummaging, more reach. Tags over tugging. Soft hands, sturdy keeps. Begin small. Sleep will help. So the short version is, memory grows kinder by letting go of clutter and keeping your clearest path. Before we wave goodnight, a tiny, cozy joke. If your night crew finds that missing sock, please accept delivery in pairs. They've been shipping singles for years. They'd love a success story. A small loop to community if you want it. If this gentle voice kept you company, you can subscribe to hear more nights like this. And if it's fun, tell me where you're listening from. Bedroom, sofa fort, late bus, balcony with a quiet plant. Our little map of sleepy dots is one of my favorite things. None of this is mandatory. You don't owe a comment or a click. You don't owe wakefulness or attention. You owe yourself ease. Now, if you forgot half of what we covered, perfect. That's the point. The half that stayed will be the half you need. Let's pause. One last slow exhale. Jaw soft. Tongue resting light. Shoulders at home. Here's the benediction I promised. Fold it into a single line you can tuck into your pocket. Sleep well. Your mind knows the way. And if you wake later and need a sentence to guide you back, use this one. So the short version is, memory grows kinder by letting go of clutter and keeping your clearest path.